80,000 participants attending this event from more than 90 countries. Can we use gross national happiness instead of GDP in least developed countries, as it includes ethical values and good governance? The question is in reference to the rampant increase in corruption in some LDC and developing countries like India, Brazil, and Bangladesh.
Yeah, GDP definitely is not the measure of happiness.
All at J.M. Smith that we were supposed to be a good supplier to our customers, be a good customer to our suppliers, be a good employer to our employees, be a good citizen of our community. This conference and in everything that the Jan Center and its associates are doing.
Your knowledge is your wealth. Your intelligence is your wealth. Your personality is your wealth. That is your dollar. I started with $1 in my pocket, school dropout, 8th standard, but I am here in front of you with 1 lakh students, with the campuses across the country, 1 million students. And before I started in education, I already created 3,500 entrepreneurs.
Leading from behind is also the best position to develop future leaders. From here, one can see who is most effective at handling obstacles and also influencing the rest of the team for better and worse. While building a compelling case for gender diversity, advancing women leadership in the workplace should consider all these dimensions. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be invited at the International Research Summit AVLOKAN. The literal meaning of AVLOKAN is the art of self-realization.
If you complete this cycle, it becomes a very sustainable model, wherein there is no shortage of resources for conducting further research if you make it applied. And I must reiterate that I do not undermine the importance of fundamental research or purely academic research. This needs to be kept in mind as far as research as an activity is concerned for academic institutions. Now, being such a place, students, particularly you all, I don't have enough words to thank you for what you have put out. I think all attention of the university is keeping you all in mind, and you will be the ultimate beneficiary of whatever you are trying to do.
Thing is to redesign the banking system so that they are devoted to do the work, the whole bank, not just tiny window in the conventional banks.
The bank in Bangalore is doing very well back for the poor, and is doing very well in
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
It's at 6,000 crore level they have reached, Grameen. It's all your Professor Mohammed Yunus. And they have been effectively doing it for the poor, and poor is becoming better and better. Even if a vegetable vendor is there, he's able to earn 5 lakh rupees a year and pay his fees for his children. So your philosophy is working across the world.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that.
So the next decade is about 7 Ds. Disease is not going away so easily. So I cannot predict what will happen, but yes, I do see it is causing the digital divide between rich and poor. But at the same time, you see, with respect to my previous answer as well, that these technologies are making field level for every.
skills and network. So skills plus network is success. Only success in networking is not in finding the right person, but in becoming the right person. True value of networking lies in helping others. Now,
regarding introverts and the connect with networking, I just wanted to say that a lot of people who are actually introverts and they feel hesitant regarding networking. They feel like that it is not for me. But I think your talk has definitely motivated them, and I think now they can go ahead with it.
Our weaknesses represent our greatest opportunities for development. Plant many seeds, and not all of them actually grow up to be a fully nurtured plant. Some of them do, right? So you expose them to many things, and you take a step back and you start seeing where they're flourishing, and kind of build a theme around it, right? There's a theme around like a pool of talents which are around that theme. Start identifying and observing that thing, and as parent and as role models, just nurture, just provide the nurturing, giving them that opportunities, and they will thrive. They'll just do what best they can do.
For all the people who are yet to start their corporate jobs, who are yet to start their entrepreneurship journey, my dear friend, this is going to happen with you also. Unless and until you understand that the funnel that needs to be inverted. Okay, so in today's dynamic market, in today's global market, it all begins with networking and building the relationship.
So the bad comes with the good, as I pointed out in so many of the examples.
How do we differentiate ethical, moral, and legal behaviors in our course of achieving our life goals? Don't the three behaviors overlap and create confusion in the process of achieving our goals of life?
The severity of the bad, number one, and ease of implementation, the other thing. Now,
I want to share the idea that this is the way we respect other people. We don't do it by holding their hands in an age of COVID. We do it by the Asian way, actually, of acknowledging their presence and their importance and their dignity. So I thank all of you for sharing your thoughts.
Thanks.
What light means to the darkness, that is what Dr. Kotler means to the Peter in me.
Dr. Philip Kotler to me is the inventor, creator, and preserver of contemporary marketing.
For me, Dr. Kotler is a university in himself.
A benevolent teacher who has bestowed the world with the invaluable treasure called marketing.
Dr. Philip Kotler means he provides values and solutions to the world of marketing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Dr. Kotler, your presence is an enlightening learning journey, not just for us, but for the thousands of people watching us live across the globe.
I send my best wishes to Jane and your university and all of India. Thank you.
than 80,000 participants attending this event from more than 90 countries. Can we use gross national happiness instead of GDP in least developed countries, as it includes ethical values and good governance? The question is in reference to the rampant increase in corruption in some LDC and developing countries like India, Brazil, and Bangladesh.
Yeah, GDP definitely is not the measure of happiness.
All at J.M. Smith that we were supposed to be a good supplier to our customers, be a good customer to our suppliers, be a good employer to our employees, be a good citizen of our community. This conference and in everything that the Jan Center and its associates are doing.
So your knowledge is your wealth. Your intelligence is your wealth. Your personality is your wealth. That is your dollar. University. I started with $1 in my pocket, school dropout, 8th standard, but I'm here in front of you with 1 lakh students, with campuses across the country, 1 million students. Before I started in education, I already created 3,500 entrepreneurs.
Leading from behind is also the best position to develop future leaders. From here, one can see who is most effective at handling obstacles and also influencing the rest of the team for better and worse. While building a compelling case for gender diversity, advancing women leadership in the workplace should consider all these dimensions. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be invited at the International Research Summit AVLOKAN. The literal meaning of AVLOKAN is the art of self-realization.
If you complete this cycle, it becomes a very sustainable model wherein there is no shortage of resources for conducting further research if you make it applied. And I must reiterate that I do not undermine the importance of fundamental research or purely academic research. This needs to be kept in mind as far as research as an activity is concerned for academic institutions. In such a position, students, particularly you all, I don't have enough words to thank you for what you have provided. I think all attention of the university is keeping you all in mind, and you will be the ultimate beneficiary of whatever you are trying to do.
Thing is to redesign the banking system so that they are devoted to do the work of the whole bank, not just tiny window in the conventional banks.
A bank in Bangalore is doing very well bank for the poor, and is doing very well in
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
It's at 6,000 crore level they have reached, Grameen. It's all your Professor Mohammed Yunus. And they have been effectively doing it for the poor, and poor is becoming better and better. Even if a vegetable vendor is there, he's able to earn 5 lakh rupees a year and pay his fees for his children. So your philosophy is working across the world.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that.
So the next decade is about 7 Ds. Disease is not going away so easily. So I cannot predict what will happen, but yes, I do see it is causing the digital divide between rich and poor. But at the same time, you see, with respect to my previous answer as well, that these technologies are making field level for every.
skills and network. So skills plus network is success. Only success in networking is not in finding the right person, but in becoming the right person. True value of networking lies in helping others. Now,
regarding introverts and the connect with networking, I just wanted to say that a lot of people who are actually introverts and they feel hesitant regarding networking. They feel like that it is not for me. But I think your talk has definitely motivated them, and I think now they can go ahead with it.
Our weaknesses represent our greatest opportunities for development. Plant many seeds, and not all of them actually grow up to be a fully nurtured plant. Some of them do, right? So you expose them to many things, and you take a step back and you start seeing where they're flourishing, and kind of build a theme around it, right? There's a theme around like a pool of talents which are around that theme. Start identifying and observing that theme, and as parent and as role models, just nurture, just provide the nurturing, giving them that opportunities, and they will thrive. They'll just do what best they can do.
For all the people who are yet to start their corporate jobs, who are yet to start their entrepreneurship journey, my dear friend, this is going to happen with you also. Unless and until you understand that the funnel that needs to be inverted. Okay, so in today's dynamic market, in today's global market, it all begins with networking and building the relationship.
So the bad comes with the good, as I pointed out in so many of the examples.
How do we differentiate ethical, moral, and legal behaviors in our course of achieving our life goals? Don't the three behaviors overlap and create confusion in the process of achieving our goals of life?
The severity of the bad, number one, and ease of implementation, the other thing. Now,
I want to share the idea that this is the way we respect other people. We don't do it by holding their hands in an age of COVID. We do it by the Asian way, actually, of acknowledging their presence and their importance and their dignity. So I thank all of you for sharing your thoughts.
What light means to the darkness, that is what Dr. Kotler means to the Peter in me.
Dr. Philip Kotler, to me, is the inventor, creator, and preserver of contemporary marketing.
For me, Dr. Kotler is a university in himself.
A benevolent teacher who has bestowed the world with the invaluable treasure called marketing.
Dr. Philip Kotler means he provides values and solutions to the world of marketing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Dr. Kotler, your presence is an enlightening learning journey, not just for us, but for the thousands of people watching us live across the globe.
I send my best wishes to Jane and your university and all of India. Thank you.
30,000 participants attending this event from more than 90 countries. Can we use gross national happiness instead of GDP in least developed countries, as it includes ethical values and good governance? The question is in reference to the rampant increase in corruption in some LDC and developing countries like India, Brazil, and Bangladesh.
Yeah, GDP definitely is not the measure of happiness.
All at J.M. Smith that we were supposed to be a good supplier to our customers, be a good customer to our suppliers, be a good employer to our employees, be a good citizen of our community. This conference and in everything that the Jan Center and its associates are doing.
So your knowledge is your wealth. Your intelligence is your wealth. Your personality is your wealth. That is your dollar. I started with $1 in my pocket, school dropout, 8th standard, but I am here in front of you with 1 lakh students, with campuses across the country, 1 million students. And before I started in education, I already created 3,500 entrepreneurs.
Leading from behind is also the best position to develop future leaders. From here, one can see who is most effective at handling obstacles and also influencing the rest of the team for better and worse. While building a compelling case for gender diversity, advancing women leadership in the workplace should consider all these dimensions. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be invited at the International Research Summit AVLOKAN. The literal meaning of AVLOKAN is the art of self-realization.
If you complete this cycle, it becomes a very sustainable model wherein there is no shortage of resources for conducting further research if you make it applied. And I must reiterate that I do not undermine the importance of fundamental research or purely academic research. This needs to be kept in mind as far as research as an activity is concerned for academic institutions. Now, being such a place, students, particularly you all, I don't have enough words to thank you for what you have put up. I think all attention of the university is keeping you all in mind, and you will be the ultimate beneficiary of whatever we are trying to do.
Thing is to redesign the banking system so that they are devoted to do the work, the whole bank, not just tiny window in the conventional banks.
The bank in Bangalore is doing very well bank for the poor, and is doing very well in
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
It's at 6,000 crore level they have reached, Gramin. It's all your Professor Mohammed Yunus. And they have been effectively doing it for the poor, and poor is becoming better and better. Even if a vegetable vendor is there, he's able to earn 5 lakh rupees a year and pay his fees for his children. So your philosophy is working across the world.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that.
So the next decade is about 7 Ds. Disease is not going away so easily. So I cannot predict what will happen, but yes, I do see it is causing the digital divide between rich and poor. But at the same time, you see, with respect to my previous answer as well, that these technologies are making field level for every.
skills and network. So skills plus network is success. Only success in networking is not in finding the right person, but in becoming the right person. True value of networking lies in helping others. Now,
regarding introverts and the connect with networking, I just wanted to say that a lot of people who are actually introverts and they feel hesitant regarding networking. They feel like that it is not for me. But I think your talk has definitely motivated them, and I think now they can go ahead with it.
Our weaknesses represent our greatest opportunities for development. Plant many seeds, and not all of them actually grow up to be a fully nurtured plant. Some of them do, right? So you expose them to many things, and you take a step back and you start seeing where they're flourishing, and kind of build a theme around it, right? There's a theme around like a pool of talents which are around that theme. Start identifying and observing that theme, and as parent and as role models, just nurture, just provide the nurturing, giving them that opportunities, and they will thrive. They'll just do what best they can do.
For all the people who are yet to start their corporate jobs, who are yet to start their entrepreneurship journey, my dear friend, this is going to happen with you also. Unless and until you understand that the funnel that needs to be inverted. Okay, so in today's dynamic market, in today's global market, it all begins with networking and building the relationship.
So the bad comes with the good, as I pointed out in so many of the examples.
How do we differentiate ethical, moral, and legal behaviors in our course of achieving our life goals? Don't the three behaviors overlap and create confusion in the process of achieving our goals of life?
The severity of the bad, number one, and ease of implementation, the other thing. Now,
I want to share the idea that this is the way we respect other people. We don't do it by holding their hands in an age of COVID. We do it by the Asian way, actually, of acknowledging their presence and their importance and their dignity. So I thank all of you for sharing your thoughts.
What light means to the darkness, that is what Dr. Kotler means to the leader in me.
Dr. Philip Kotler, to me, is the inventor, creator, and preserver of contemporary marketing.
For me, Dr. Kotler is a university in himself.
A benevolent teacher who has bestowed the world with the invaluable treasure called marketing.
Dr. Philip Kotler means he provides values and solutions to the world of marketing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Dr. Kotler, your presence is an enlightening learning journey, not just for us, but for the thousands of people watching us live across the globe.
I send my best wishes to Jane and your university and all of India. Thank you.
Dear participants, welcome to our 9-day International Entrepreneurship Summit, the most awaited event of the year 2022, AVLOKAN 2.0. We are going to begin sharp at 7 p.m. IST. Thanks for your patient presence. For today, we have with us a session by Dr. Paul D. Reynolds, alumnus Stanford University, professor of entrepreneurship at Eastern University, USA, who will be delivering his views on the topic Economic Development and Business Creation, a global overview of entrepreneurship from 7 to 8 p.m., followed by international panel discussion from 8 to 9 p.m. with our esteemed panelists as Manish Chaudhary, alumnus IIT Delhi and IIM Bangalore, founder and director, peakminds.in, along with some other panelists as Zohar Hott, founder and CEO, One Creation Corporation, USA, Mariana Goody, CEO, Marathi Organization, Thomas Hansen, former Human Rights Manager, FIFA World Cup, Chief Advisor on Responsible Business Conduct, Rambol Management Consulting, Denmark, Mahesh Ramchandran, alumnus, London Business School, faculty, Indian School of Business, general partner, Pontec Foundation, Commonwealth Inclusive Growth Services Limited, India, and Dr. Eileen Somers, alumnus, Imperial College of London, executive director, Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, Switzerland, post which we have a session by Dr. David Acker, father of modern branding, delivering his views on the topic owning game-changing subcategories, the role of branding. And finally, we will be culminating the event with Best Paper Awards and valedictory. Once again, a very warm welcome to all of you to the 9th day of the International Entrepreneurship Summit of AVLOKAN 2.0 on Beyond Sustainability, Trends in Regenerative, Socially Responsible Community Venture. Requesting all participants connected with us in this journey through Facebook Live and Zoom platform to stay tuned with us. We are going to begin in next few minutes. Thank you. Dear participants, let me brief this lovely crowd with our 9 days journey by now, which begin with paper presentations on 3 subsequent days, on 10th, 11th, and 12th January, followed by today's session. In between, we had a number of sessions with a number of reputed speakers, starting with the most inaugural session, the most eminent speaker, that is Gary Stewart, CEO and founder of Founder Tribes, inaugural lecturer of entrepreneurship at Yale University, UK, who spoke on the topic Beyond Social Impact. Later on, we had a session by Dr. Amrit Lal Bharadwaj, professor at Cardiff Business School, UK. Apart from him, we had lots of other sessions. For example, we had with us a session on the topic Beyond Silicon Valley, Growing Entrepreneurship in Transitioning Economies by Michael Goldberg, alumnus, Wharton School, Johns Hopkins University, and Princeton University, executive director, Vio Institute for Entrepreneurship, and Case Western Reserve University. Apart from this, we also had with us Dr. Robert D. Hisrich, faculty, India International Innovation Institute, I4, and Bridgestone Chair of International Marketing, Kent State University, USA, who delivered his talk on the topic Entrepreneurship Beyond Borders. Similarly, today we are going to have a very, very special session by the most renowned speaker, that is Dr. David Acker, father of modern branding. So stay tuned with us. We are going to begin sharp at 7 p.m. Thank you. Dear participants, we are going to begin sharp at 7 p.m. Thanks for your patient presence. Requesting all participants connected with us in this journey through Facebook Live and Zoom platform to stay tuned with us. We are going to begin in next few minutes. Dear participants, today we have a session by Dr. Paul D. Reynolds, alumnus, Stanford University, professor of entrepreneurship at Eastern University, USA, who will be delivering his views on the topic, economic development and business creation, a global overview of entrepreneurship from 7 to 8 p.m., followed by international panel discussion from 8 to 9 p.m. with our esteemed panelist, Manish Chaudhary, alumnus IIT Delhi and IIM Bangalore, founder and director, Foundation and Skilling India.in, along with Zohar Hod, founder and CEO, One Creation Corporation, USA, Mariana Goody, CEO, Meraki Organization, Thomas Hansen, former Human Rights Manager, FIFA World Cup, Chief Advisor on Responsible Business Conduct, Rambol Management Consulting, Denmark, Mahesh Ramchandran, alumnus, London Business School, faculty, Indian School of Business, general partner, Pontech, founder, Commonwealth Inclusive, Growth Services Limited India, and Dr. Eileen, alumnus, Imperial College of London, executive director, Global Entrepreneurship, Monitor, Switzerland, post which we have a session by Dr. David Acker, father of modern branding, delivering his views on the topic, owning game-changing subcategories, the role of branding, and finally, we will be culminating the event with Best Paper Awards and valedictory. Once again, a very warm welcome to all of you to the 9th day of the International Entrepreneurship Summit, AVLOKAN 2.0, on Beyond Sustainability, Trends in Regenerative, Socially Responsible Community Venture. Requesting all participants connected with us through Facebook Live and Zoom platform to stay tuned with us. We are going to begin in next few minutes. Dear participants, we shortly have with us joining in our eminent speaker of the session, Professor Paul D. Reynolds. Thanks for your patient presence. Till then, we can have a video of us SRDC. Can we have the video, please? Dear participants, we just have with us joining in our eminent speaker of the session in a few minutes. Thanks for your patient presence. For today's session, we have with us Dr. Paul D. Reynolds, alumnus Stanford University, professor of entrepreneurship at Eastern University, USA, speaking on the topic Economic Development and Business Creation, a global overview of entrepreneurship from 7 to 8 p.m., followed by international panel discussion from 8 to 9 p.m. with our esteemed speakers and panelists as Manish Chaudhary, alumnus IIT Delhi and IIM Bangalore, founder and director, Foundations and Skilling India, along with Zohar Hott, founder and CEO, One Creation Corporation USA, Mariana Goody, CEO, Meraki Organizations, Thomas Hensen, former Human Rights Manager, FIFA World Cup, Chief Advisor on Responsible Business Conduct, Rambol, Management Consulting, Denmark, Mahesh Ramchandran, alumnus, London Business School, faculty, Indian School of Business, general partner, Pontec, founder, Commonwealth Inclusive Growth Services Limited, India, and Dr. Elaine, alumnus, Imperial College of London, executive director, Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, Switzerland, post which we have a session by Dr. David Arco, father of modern branding, delivering his views on the topic, owning game-changing subcategories, the role of branding. And finally, we will be culminating the event with the Best Paper Awards and valedictory. Once again, a very warm welcome to all of you to the 9th day of the International Entrepreneurship Summit, AVLOKAN 2.0, on Beyond Sustainability, Trends in Regenerative, Socially Responsible Community Venture. We are going to begin just in a few minutes. Thanks for your patient presence. Requesting all participants connected with us in this journey through Facebook Live and Zoom platform to stay tuned. We are going to begin in next few minutes. Thank you. Till the speaker joins, can we have the video, please? Dear participants, we are shortly going to have with us our eminent speaker of the session, Professor Paul D. Reynolds. Thanks for your patient presence.
We have more than 80,000 participants attending this event from more than 90 countries. Can we use gross national happiness instead of GDP in least developed countries, as it includes ethical values and good governance? The question is in reference to the rampant increase in corruption in some LDC and developing countries like India, Brazil, and Bangladesh.
Yeah, GDP definitely is not the measure of happiness.
All at J.M. Smith that we were supposed to be a good supplier to our customers, be a good customer to our suppliers, be a good employer to our employees, be a good citizen of our community. This conference and in everything that the Jan Center and its associates are doing.
Your knowledge is your wealth. Your intelligence is your wealth. Your personality is your wealth. That is your dollar. I started with $1 in my pocket, school dropout, 8th standard, but I am here in front of you with 1 lakh students, with campuses across the country, 1 million students. Before I started in education, I already created 3,500 entrepreneurs.
Leading from behind is also the best position to develop future leaders. From here, one can see who is most effective at handling obstacles and also influencing the rest of the team for better and worse. While building a compelling case for gender diversity, advancing women leadership in the workplace should consider all these dimensions. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be invited at the International Research Summit AVLOKAN. The literal meaning of AVLOKAN is the art of self-realization.
If you complete this cycle, it becomes a very sustainable model wherein there is no shortage of resources for conducting further research if you make it applied. And I must reiterate that I do not undermine the importance of fundamental research or purely academic research. This needs to be kept in mind as far as research as an activity is concerned for academic institutions. For being such a patient students, particularly you all, I don't have enough words to thank you for what you have put out. I think all attention of the university is keeping you all in mind, and you will be the ultimate beneficiary of whatever you're trying to do.
The thing is to redesign the banking system so that they are devoted to do the work, the whole bank, not just tiny window in the conventional banks.
A bank in Bangalore is doing very well bank for the poor, and is doing very well in
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
It's at 6,000 crore level they have reached, Grameen Kota. It's all your Professor Mohammed Yunus. And they have been effectively doing it for the poor, and poor is becoming better and better. Even if a vegetable vendor is there, he's able to earn 5 lakh rupees a year and pay his fees for his children. So your philosophy is working across the world.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that.
So the next decade is about 7Ds. Disease is not going away so easily. So I cannot predict what will happen, but yes, I do see it is causing the digital divide between rich and poor. But at the same time, you see, with respect to my previous answer as well, that these technologies are making field level for every.
Skills and network. So skills plus network is success. Only success in networking is not in finding the right person, but in becoming the right person. True value of networking lies in helping others. Now,
regarding introverts and the connect with networking, I just wanted to say that a lot of people who are actually introverts and they feel hesitant regarding networking. They feel like that it is not for me. But I think your talk has definitely motivated them, and I think now they can go ahead with it.
Our weaknesses represent our greatest opportunities for development. Plant many seeds, and not all of them actually grow up to be a fully nurtured plant. Some of them do, right? So you expose them to many things, and you take a step back and you start seeing where they're flourishing, and kind of build a theme around it, right? There's a theme around like a pool of talents which are around that theme. Start identifying and observing that theme. And as parent and as role models, just nurture, just provide the nurturing, giving them that opportunities, and they will thrive. They'll just do what best they can do.
For all the people who are yet to start their corporate jobs, who are yet to start their entrepreneurship journey, my dear friend, this is going to happen with you also. Unless and until you understand that the funnel that needs to be inverted. Okay, so in today's dynamic market, in today's global market, it all begins with networking and building the relationship.
So the bad comes with the good, as I pointed out in so many of the examples.
How do we differentiate ethical, moral, and legal behaviors in our course of achieving our life goals? Don't the three behaviors overlap and create confusion in the process of achieving our goals of life?
The severity of the bad, number one, and ease of implementation, the other thing. Now,
I want to share the idea that this is the way we respect other people. We don't do it by holding their hands in an age of COVID. We do it by the Asian way, actually, of acknowledging their presence and their importance and their dignity. So I thank all of you for sharing your thoughts.
What light means to the darkness, that is what Dr. Kotler means to the Peter in me.
Dr. Philip Kotler, to me, is the inventor, creator, and preserver of contemporary marketing.
For me, Dr. Kotler is a university in himself.
A benevolent teacher who has bestowed the world with the invaluable treasure called marketing.
Dr. Philip Kotler means He provides values and solutions to the world of marketing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Dr. Kotler, your presence is an enlightening learning journey, not just for us, but for the thousands of people watching us live across the globe.
I send my best wishes to Jane and your university and all of India. Thank you.
Dear participants, our eminent speaker of the session, Professor Paul D. Reynolds, is going to join us soon in next few minutes. Due to some technical glitch, he is taking a little bit of time to join in. Let me brief this lovely crowd till the time our speaker joins in with our 9 days journey, which began with paper presentations on 3 subsequent days, 10th, 11th, and 12th of January, when we had with us our keynote speaker, Gary Stewart, CEO and founder of Founder Tribes, inaugural lecturer of entrepreneurship at Yale University, UK, who spoke on the topic Beyond Social Impact, followed by an enlightening session by Dr. Amrit Lal Bharadwaj, professor at Cardiff Business School, UK. We also had the incubation of Jane Deemed to be University, followed by a session from our keynote speaker, Michael Goldberg, alumnus, Wharton School, Johns Hopkins University, and Princeton University, Executive Director, VO Institute for Entrepreneurship, East Western Reserve University, USA, speaking on the topic Beyond Silicon Valley, Growing Entrepreneurship in Transitioning Economies, followed by the next speaker, Dr. Robert D. Hisrich, Faculty, India International Innovation Institute I4 and Bridgestone Chair of International Marketing, Kent State University, USA, delivering his talk on the topic Entrepreneurship Beyond Borders. Then we had a session by Dr. J. Rao, Professor of Strategy and Innovation, Babson College, USA, who spoke on the topic Gorillas, Chimps, and Monkeys, Startups versus Scale-Up, followed by Dr. Ellen R. Cohen, alumnus, Harvard Business School, Professor, Babson College, USA, who spoke on the topic Entrepreneurship for All. What does it take and when is it appropriate? Next speaker we had with us Dr. Dinesh Nilkant, Dean, Faculty of Management and Director of Center for Management Studies, CMS B School, School of Graduate Studies, School of Computer Science, IT and Admissions at Jane Deemed to be University, who delivered his talk on the topic University and Entrepreneurship. On 28th of January, we had sessions by 3 intellectuals, Darshan Doshi, Advisory Board Member, Babson Collaborator, Director, Adaptation and Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, Flame University, who spoke on the topic, how to pitch your startups to investors, followed by Gustavo Rojas Alaya, General Director of Mexicanos Primero, Mexico, delivering his talk on the topic, the innovation opportunities that COVID-19 brought to education systems, followed by the last session of the day by Dr. Bruce Kingma, Professor of Entrepreneurship at Syracuse University, USA, apprising us with his views on the topic Experiential Entrepreneurship Education. On 21st of January, we had the first session by Dr. Raj Singh, Vice Chancellor, Jane Deemed to be University, who spoke on the topic Creative Collisions of Unusual Suspects to Breed Innovation and Entrepreneurship, followed by Juan Manuel, alumnus, Stanford University, CEO, Tech for Mexico, who spoke on the topic Lead an Education Nonprofit, Creating a Culture that welcomes entrepreneurial ideas, followed by the next session from the last speaker of the day, Dr. Luke Pitave, Professor of Entrepreneurship at Ohio University, USA. Dear participants, today we have a session by Dr. Paul D. Reynolds, alumnus, Stanford University, Professor of Entrepreneurship at Eastern University, USA, who will be delivering his views on the topic, Economic Development and Business Creation, a global overview of entrepreneurship. We are going to have the session soon with Dr. Reynolds. Later on, we are going to have international panel discussion with our esteemed panelist, Manish Chaudhary, alumnus IIT Delhi and IIM Bangalore, founder skillingindia.in, along with Zohar Hott, founder and CEO One Creation USA, Mariana Goody, CEO Meraki Organizations, Thomas Hansen, former Human Rights Manager, FIFA World Cup, Chief Advisor on Responsible Business Conduct, Rambol Management Consulting, Denmark, Mahesh Ramachandran, alumnus, London Business School, faculty, Indian School of Business, General Partner, Contech, founder, Commonwealth Inclusive Growth Services Limited, India, and Dr. Ellen, alumnus, Imperial College of London, Executive Director, Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, Switzerland. Post which we are going to have a session by Dr. David Acker, father of modern branding, delivering his views on the topic, owning game-changing subcategories, the role of branding, and finally, we will be culminating the event with Best Paper Awards and valedictory. Once again, a very warm welcome to all of you to the 9th day of the International Entrepreneurship Summit, AVLOKAN 2.0. on Beyond Sustainability, Trends in Regenerative, Socially Responsible Community Venture.
Hi, Dr. Ellen.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Good to see you all today.
Same here, same here. We are actually waiting for Dr. Paul. I think he's having some kind of emergency. So we are just making sure whether he will be able to join us or not. Otherwise, straight we'll start with panel discussion. Just for a few seconds of patience required from our participants. So in some time, if Dr. Paul is not able to join us, in that case, we'll start with our panel discussion.
Dear participants, we have with us joined in Dr. Ellen. Thanks for joining in, ma'am. A very warm welcome to you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Dr. Ellen, we have here Professor Amritlal Bharadwaj from Cardiff University, UK.
Hello, Amrit sir. Thanks for presiding over this evening, sir.
Good evening, everybody, from a very cold day in Cardiff.
How's the weather there, sir?
Very cold. It's going to be -5 tonight.
Okay. What about Dr. Ellen? How's that? Dr. Ellen?
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah. So how's the weather at your end?
Oh, a beautiful, crisp, blue skied day. Absolutely gorgeous, but cold. It's Switzerland. I'm based in Switzerland, so cold. But lovely. Yeah.
Good. So before we actually begin our session, we thought we can have some interaction if by the time Dr. Paul joins us. So Dr. Allen, you can little bit tell us, our audience, about GEM, if you would like, what all GEM does.
What GEM does?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, GEM is Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. It's a research initiative that has been active for 23 years now. And what we do is we collect data on attitudes, motivations, and mindsets of entrepreneurs. but we also run a national expert survey on the state, let's say the state of the art of entrepreneurship in terms of the business context for entrepreneurship worldwide. So we have about 60 national teams across the world, one of which is Indian. And we work with those teams to collect the data, and that puts us in a position to launch what we call the Global Report. We actually will be launching this year's Global Report on the 10th of February at the Expo 2020 Dubai, which is a global exhibition, very modernistic, very innovative, that has been run in Dubai this year. So we'll be launching on the 10th of February, and I invite everybody here to link to us. Just go on our website, Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, and you will be able to find the link.
Great. I think due to bad weather, Dr. Paul is having some kind of problems at his end. So we are really not sure whether he'll be able to make it or not. We have our Professor Sunita BK here, who is our HOD.
Good evening, everybody. We are sorry first, Professor Paul is not able to join due to network or weather condition issues. We thought we'll run through his presentation, and if at all there are any questions, I sincerely request Amritlal sir to help me solve this issue. I think he'll not say no, because I am a student, so he should be more than happy to help his student right now, because
I'm very touched by your confidence in me.
Yeah. Because about Amritlal sir and our relation, it dates back to a lot of years back, and I think he was the one who gave us a fresh perspective about how to teach finance for entrepreneurship students, how to actually teach finance. And one of the best FTPs we had was from him, not to flatter him. I think my friends know here who are sitting that it's very difficult for me to praise somebody. So it's a genuine, from the heart I'm talking about. Vasha ma'am, yeah, thank you. Yes, I think Professor Paul Reynolds, who is one of the alumnus of Stanford, founding investigator of Global Entrepreneurship Monitoring, an honorary professor of entrepreneurship in Aston Business School. I know I cannot do justice to what he wanted to tell, but it is just an attempt, Lord Krishna told in Mahabharata. We have to make every single attempt to whatever we achieve. We may succeed or we may fail, but an attempt is always fruitful for whatever we are targeting right now. So if I go wrong, my sincere pranams and apologies on behalf of all of us. Please correct me. I think with all your best wishes, I'm going to start. I think today's entrepreneurship issues, what we are about to discuss, or what Paul wanted to tell, is that what are the issues we need to discuss, especially post-COVID? What are the issues we are going to discuss, and how nationality makes a difference for entrepreneurship, and what are the comparison across the stages, and what will be the practical implications? When we are going to talk about national issues, who gets involved? Like a country like us, we started believing ourselves as entrepreneurs post 1991, when government said, okay, listen, you can actually start a business. Because prior to 1991, we had a very draconian law, which was Industrial Regulation Act of 1956, which actually told me how much saris I should produce, how much phones I should produce. And if I am given a permission of 10, I produce 11th one, I'm the biggest criminal. So today, who gets involved? See, as an ecosystem, government, my peers, my family, and the entire society gets involved in terms of creation of any business. And these business creators, I would like to quote what you call the current president, Reliance Group president, who said, in India, whenever we are going to talk about a business, the organized business forms less than 5% of our entire ecosystem. It is the unorganized, the street vendors, okay, the pani puri walas, the dabba walas, they are the ones who create this ecosystem, and we have to recognize them. They are the finest of finest business creators. Like probably Alan would agree with me. It is about creating an ecosystem rather than applauding the one man or two men who have been just like, creation. I think today I was referring to one of in my entrepreneurship class. It's not about that everybody can be Elon Musk. Okay, we were talking about Mr. Ardik Doshi, who created a 5,000 crore rupees solar business from a thermal PPA, pipe business. And remember, creation of the solar business was very tough for anybody in the world. Everybody will agree, anybody in the world, because China is a monster in solar business. We have to appreciate those business creators. These are the people who give employment, a small scale entrepreneurs. Okay, local entrepreneurs, if he gives employment to 5 people, that's the biggest business creation. Today, these new ventures actually create fantastic atmosphere, unbelievable atmosphere. And that has to be appreciated as an ecosystem. As a university, we need to promote new venture contributions. Not to boast, our student Nirbhar is one step in that direction, where we are going to listen to our kids, we have a platform, exhibit your business free of cost, we will take care of the rest. And I think that new ventures creates huge, ecosystem. I would like to take the example of Fuji films. When Fuji Films, when this roll camera came to an almost dead end, they realized, oh my God, this is end. Kodak declared bankruptcy. We were always number 2, what to do? What did they do? They just ventured into what you call cosmetic business. Simple theory they had. Photo film making, use photosynthesis. Our cosmetics, my lipstick today, uses photosynthesis. They combined the both, they created a whole new venture. The company existed, and that type of ecosystem is what new ventures should create. You are bound to fail, but it should not kill my entrepreneurial spirit to start something new. Structural adoption, it's absolutely needed from the society as a whole and also from the government. Today, it is important that we create an adoption wherein you have businesses which are coming to the ecosystem, but at the same time, what are the changes I can make? Today, I cannot tell my 3-year-old niece that go and use that handwriting book and write A. She tells me, Aunt, I can write A in my tab, much better and more colorful. So my structural adoption of business should be to her and the generations after her or just before her, not to me at 44. Okay, fine. What do you want? My health issues will be my health problems. What are the safety measures? Or what are my retirement plans? But that is a small part of it. But the younger generation, new business adoptions are needed. When you are actually doing this today, the society is service-oriented structural adoption, which is very much needed. Like COVID came, a lot of us started in India, started using UPI. Okay, wherein you can easily transfer money from one person to another. A lot of technologically disadvantaged people started using it. That was very quick for all UPI to ensure that they ensured the security features quite drastically improved, scaled it up, and they did massive changes. That quick adoption is absolutely necessary. If you do not adopt right now, and it becomes a huge issue, and that structural adoption should be probably insane in a culture of a country. And I think we are a country who are excellent in terms of cultural adoptions. We have adopted over a period of time, and we may be at times slow, but we will overcome certain what you call challenges. So what are these challenges? First one, accepting that what you call business can be a failure is a big challenge. Most of us are so fascinated with what I create. Sometimes probably as a teacher, Amrutlal sir will agree, if I create a fantastic PPT, I am the best. But the problem is next time there'll be something better. Next very moment there can be something better. Something similarly is a business challenge which happens. Okay, and we have to adopt to that particular business challenge. We should understand challenges in a new perspective. We don't know who is our competition. For a very long time, we Indians assume China is our competition in textiles. Post-COVID, we realized there's a small country which is sailing through, and Bangladesh is our toughest competitor. The measures Bangladesh government took during COVID to protect its textile industry made us raise our eyebrows and tell, oh my God, this is our new competition. For 3-4 years back, India would have never imagined this can happen to us. What are the challenges? Today, acceptability is a challenge. Okay, you may have a short-term success. Longevity is a challenge. Longevity to ensure the customers actually be with you. That is your biggest challenge. And you also need to understand these challenges comes from various dimensions, absolutely various dimensions. From the issues of your people accepting your product, or you not understanding the market, and at the same time probably there is a cultural issue. Sometimes I do not accept certain products. Very simple. I'll tell you, there is a lot of small startups which have this menstrual cup. In India, we have still not accepted it. We took almost 3 decades to accept sanitary napkins. Do you think we can accept menstrual cups so easily? Acceptance of people is very hugely important. Second, and probably very, very important issue right now is that when we actually understand these businesses are going to change everything, that can also be a huge, what you call, challenge. What are the policy implications? What should government do? Does just Make in India make everything easy for us? Yes, it can make everything easy. But at the same time, taking advantage, most of the time in India, we as an entrepreneurs, we do not even realize. Okay, we do not even realize that such certain what you call benefits are getting to us. That can be a huge what you call challenge. So when this challenge comes to us, okay, when this challenge comes to us, we have to accept that these challenges are very, very big. Absolutely big, and we have to take care of this particular what you call challenge, and that is very, very what you call important for us. And also very important is that we have to create an ecosystem where entrepreneurs will accept new what you call new way of functioning a business, new way of entertaining a particular business. With this introduction, Amrutlal sir, you want to add something here before we proceed? Amrutlal sir, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Am I audible? Can I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Yes, you are.
Yeah. So you want to add something here, sir?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I'd like to first of all endorse all that you've said. I couldn't agree more. But I would like to if I may digress slightly and go off at a tangent and express my own point of view. The first time I came to Jain University some 8 years ago to teach on the entrepreneurship module, on the plane, I was asking myself, this is not a clever idea, because you do not teach Indians entrepreneurship. They are born entrepreneurs. I can tell you that now. Having grown up in Kenya, and when I was in high school and primary school, I was surrounded by Patels and Shahs and Marwawis. Hey, boy, these guys are born businessmen. You know, it's in their DNA. And if you think you can become an entrepreneur by just reading it in a book, and I've got hundreds of books on entrepreneurship, it doesn't quite happen like that. You have to go out and do it. Having said that, there is a very, very high failure rate. And this is what this conference is trying to address. It is that failure rate we need to reduce. And this is why we teach entrepreneurship at university. We say, guys, you know, the first 3 years of your business, you have to put your business in intensive care because of the Death Valley curve that I mentioned. You have to manage your cash flow. You have to have accounting skills and so on. And this is what we teach. We show you the Death Valley curve. We show you all the pitfalls. We tell you what can go wrong. And it is you as an entrepreneur to bear all these issues at the forefront of your mind to make sure you do not fall into these pitfalls and traps. So one, learn to manage your cash flow. Two, financial accounting has got to be very strong. To quote a fantastic Professor Stiroli, there are three things. One, you need a fantastic product or a service. Two, you've got to have a fantastic marketing strategy. And number three, you've got to have fantastic financial management. Those are the three ingredients. If you get those, a good mix of that, and you can't do it alone, if you have a good team which brings all the three together, you're on to a winner. And then, of course, you've got to keep an eye on the competition and continue to innovate and stay ahead of the curve, because if you don't pay attention to the competition, they'll kill you. Michael Porter and all that, either they'll beat you on price or quality or both of them. So that really is in a nutshell. Entrepreneurship, Indians generally, with our informal sector, that's where the future is. We have to create jobs, and jobs are going to be created by entrepreneurs. They always have been. They're the people who create wealth in any economy. The failure rate that I mentioned is also very, very high in the UK, in Europe, and in the States. But they have fantastic institutions, good governance compared to ours. We need to catch up, and that's what somebody else mentioned yesterday. That, you know, this particular professor was saying that he'd been to several countries. There are entrepreneurs in every country, but the enabling factor has to be the governance. Now, Prime Minister Modi ji has tried to make things easier for entrepreneurs by it's easier to register a business in India and all those other things, but we're getting there slowly, but perhaps not fast enough, but that's just my opinion. And unless we have those institutions in the background and functioning, it's going to be a little difficult. But we have to look within ourselves. We are very capable. You look at the top 10 American companies, they're all run by Indians. So we have the talent. The shame is, as I said in a previous conference paper, we have this fantastic brain drain. We're losing our best people. And you know what? The other thing that's bandied about is, oh, Indian universities don't make it into the league tables. But some of the Chinese universities have now made it into the league tables. So they are good. I was teaching in Wuhan, China, of all the places. I was there for 2 years, 3 years, in fact. And one of the Chinese professors came up to me and said, you know what, you Indians are pretty bright. Your universities are fantastic. You know, you turn out fantastic people. Look, all the top companies in America are run by Indians. You know, you're doing something right. And you beat us hands down. And I said to him, I was being very cheeky, yes, we do. And we keep our best people for ourselves. And We can do it, and we have to do it, because if we don't do it, China will continue to race ahead, and it's dominating the world market. For us to become a $1 trillion economy in the next 5 years is going to be a real challenge. But we need to have a good government, good institutions, a fantastic banking system, perhaps privatized to a greater or larger extent. And because at the moment with state-controlled banks, we have a lot of non-performing loans. And as I said in one of my other conference papers, we need a very robust auditing profession to weed out corruption. I'm sorry, I know this is an unkind thing to say, but there we are.
So I would like to here acknowledge the presence of our panelist, Mr. Thomas Clare Henson is here, and Ms. Marianne has also joined us.
Sure.
Hi.
I welcome any comments on anything, any comments or observations anybody wants to make.
Good evening, Mariana. Nice to see you again.
Hi, Thomas.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, Thomas. Varsha ma'am, they are muted.
Just a minute. Yeah, Thomas, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah. So the classical thing. But good evening to all of you, and good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I think this is a global event, so we are probably all over the world. So it's nice to be participating.
Okay.
Yeah, we thought before starting with the discussion, all of you can just meet each other. Yeah. So Dr. Allen is also there. Mariana Goody is there. Professor Amrit Lal Bharadwaj from Cardiff University is also here.
Nice to meet you.
Same here. Nice to meet you all.
Yeah.
Right. Eileen, would you like to go first and tell us your thoughts?
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'll repeat that. Eileen, would you like to go first and tell
thank
us?
you. Thank you very much. Well, we're living in quite extraordinary times. You know, entrepreneurship in these times is maybe in a different mode to entrepreneurship in other times. You know, the COVID-19 effects have been quite dramatic and influential. And so one of the things that our organization, GEM, Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, has been concerned with is trying to understand the effects of COVID-19 on entrepreneurship worldwide. And interestingly, it's not as bad a picture as one would expect. Entrepreneurship, I mean, as you were rightly pointing out, Amrit, is entrepreneurship can be endemic and extremely part of the DNA in very many nations that are out there. And it is in times of hardship that entrepreneurship can come to the fore, actually. The creativity of people comes out, the need to actually, well, obviously survive and go forward with an economic model that actually stands up, comes out as well. So our organization has been looking at the motivations, attitudes, etc. of entrepreneurs, and has been finding that basically entrepreneurs have been stepping up to the plate in this latest period. And I should say most especially, I can see there are quite a number of women on the panel. I'm very glad to say most especially women entrepreneurs. And that's a little bit contradictory, one might think, because, you know, in times of lockdown when schools are closed and this kind of thing, one would imagine that that perhaps women would be more compromised, and they were. But I think women have even stepped up to the plate more than the average entrepreneur, because they have managed to overcome these huge barriers and to keep on trucking with their entrepreneurship and keeping their companies going. Now, obviously, I'm talking in a very general kind of global level. And as has been pointed out in the presentation from Dr. Paul Reynolds, it's very much a national level and even a local level phenomenon, entrepreneurship. So therefore, you know, it's difficult to talk in general terms. I absolutely agree that we need to bring it down to very focused, yeah, as I say, almost local level. That's my comment so far.
Good evening, Mahesh sir. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, Mahesh sir.
Ma'am, you can go ahead now.
Yeah, Alan, one thing I'm so proud to tell, our student research development cell, the current batch, are headed by all girls. So we made a, like you were mentioning, as a woman in so many places. This is entire event, majority of them are managed by women. But I would like to agree with you in one point, is that no, the boys are also doing a nice job, Amritlal sir. Otherwise, they're staring at me at the screen. But then currently there are a lot of girls are heading the show. Alan, I think I will agree with you, is that as a woman, there's a huge challenge. And I think India is not different from that. But I would like also to tell, there are a lot of small initiatives which are started, wherein the self-help groups, which are quite popular in India, where micro women entrepreneurs are making a lot of difference. There's a place in Karnataka, which is a very temple town in near Ujre, where a group of women led by a temple trust, actually create a lot of micro enterprise products, and they're exporting across. But I still tell you, even today, it's very difficult for a woman to be accepted as an entrepreneur. And it's also more difficult. I think we can quote what Kiran Majumdar Shah, the founder of AVLOKAN, said, that for me, the first acceptance for banks was to accept me as an entrepreneur. Okay, and they used to see me as a woman who's going to waste money. She had problems to get, I think, $200, $300, but today she runs a multi-crore business. On this note, we would like to conclude. Thank you all the panelists. Thank you, Amritlal sir. Thank you all the listeners for being with us. I think we wish that Paul could have joined, but then technology network issues are quite evident across. I think now I will hand over the forum to Dr. Varsha. She will take it over from it.
Thank you. First of all, I welcome all of you, Dr. Alan, Ms. Mariana, Thomas, Mahesh, Mr. Zohar, and Manish sir, all are there. So I'll formally hand over to MC so that we can start with our panel discussion proceedings. Dr. Shiva, you can take it over now.
Sure, thank you, ma'am. My namaste to all dear participants, delegates, speakers, and dignitaries. Welcome to the most awaited day of our 9-day International Entrepreneurship Summit AVLOKAN 2.0 on the theme Beyond Sustainability, Trends in Regenerative, Socially Responsible Community Venture, organized by Vidyanidhi, the Student Research and Development Cell in association with Gyanidhi, Faculty Research Cell of Center for Management Studies, Jain deemed to be University. In the words of American philosopher Ralph Emerson, cultivate the habit of being grateful for every good thing that comes to you and to give thanks continuously. And because all things have contributed to your advancement, you should include all things in your gratitude. Before we proceed ahead, here I take a moment to render my heartfelt gratitude on behalf of the entire AVLOKAN team of Center for Management Studies, Jain deemed to be University, to all our wonderful speakers and participants for their immense support and presence for all preceding days. And here I share some highlights of our 9-day International Entrepreneurship Summit, comprising sessions by 22 eminent national and international level renowned speakers with over 80,000 participants attending this event from more than 60 countries across the globe. With inaugural session by Mr. Gary Stewart, CEO and founder of Founder Tribes, professor at Yale University, UK, and valedictory by Dr. David Acker, father of modern branding. The summit also holds panel discussion along with paper presentations, conferring prizes for best presentations in different categories. To add to our event, we have had several sessions by eminent personalities of international repute from various industries, academia, and diverse walks of life. Thanks once again to all of you for being with us throughout these days, adding a lot to make this summit a grand success. Thank you once again. Now it's time to move on to our panel discussion. And here I invite our Alumni Association President, Ms. Sayeda Shifa, to introduce our esteemed panelist. Over to Ms. Shifa.
Thank you, Dr. Shiva. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our first panelist, Ms. Eileen Sommers. Ms. Eileen is the Executive Director at GEMS since February 2019. Eileen is a highly experienced academic research teacher and an author of books, case studies, and journal newspaper articles. She is an alumnus of National University of Ireland and an MS from Imperial College London. Other than her teacher assignments, Eileen spent 13 years in program management at WWF, heading it globally. Eileen is a certified Tavistock coach, design thinking facilitator, and change management consultant. As a food industry strategic innovation expert, Eileen participated in the Google Food Lab, a global collaborative network for leading thinkers and doers to apply their knowledge and passion towards imagining and shaping the future of food. Dear ma'am, we feel immensely pleased to have you with us today for the panel discussion. Despite your busy schedule, you made it a point to give us your valuable time and consideration. Thank you once again to be a part of our panel today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Our second panelist is Mr. Thomas Trier Hansen. Mr. Hansen is a jurist with more than 20 years of experience in various aspects of human rights. His experience includes more than 50 countries in North and South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. He has an extensive experience in advising companies, investors, and organizations in virtually all sectors on RBC and with complicated value chains, inclusion risk, impact, and management analysis and assessments, as well as tailored action plan to address identified gaps. He has been an expert member of the Danish National Contact Point based on the OECD guidelines for M&E. He has contributed to publications on the subject, including human rights and public procurement. It is an absolute honor and privilege to welcome you, sir, as our esteemed panelist. Thank you for your consideration and time.
Our third panelist is Mr. Zohar Hord. Mr. Hord is the founder and CEO at One Creation Corporation. Being a seasoned leader and innovator that has a proven track record of growing fintech companies from birth to Froschine, Zohar is a proven expert that can combine both deep technical and business aspects of the fintech business. Zohar has been the CEO of True PTS, an independent post-trade processing and food product agnostic venue that delivered operation and processing benefits for global derivatives. Prior to the True PTS, Zohar was a global head of technology and data sales at the Intercontinental Exchange Data Services. He also led IBM's Trading Solutions Group, and he has managed both small and large organizations. Dear sir, thank you for being with us for this evening. Giving us your time really helps in making discussion fruitful to our participants.
Thank you.
Our fourth panelist is Mr. Manish Chaudhary. Mr. Chaudhary has multiple experiences across high-growth enterprises as entrepreneur, corporate development, and management, with over 3 years as CEO, having created a new scalable business and taken it to 1,200 plus partners across 550 locations before becoming an entrepreneur. He is an alumnus of IIM Bangalore and IIT Delhi and chartered financial analyst from CFA Institute, USA. He is the ex-CEO of Tally Education, founder and director of peakmind.in and Skilling India in creating new ways to increase emotional empowerment and employability, being an upskilling evangelist. Dear sir, I feel immensely pleased to welcome you. Thank you very much for your valuable presence.
Our fifth panelist is Ms. Mariana Goody. Ms. Goody is a Mexican education leader having a degree in marketing, a master's in business administration with an emphasis in finance and a master's in education. She is also trained by the Harvard Graduate School of Education in mindfulness for educators. She is the founder and director of Meraki, a social project on emotional education, which has been recognized as one of the best projects in Latin America by the Latin American Education Conference 2018 and 2021 of the Harvard Graduate School of Education. She is an education consultant and an international speaker. She has given keynote presentations and workshops in many countries, including a TEDx talk. We extend a warm welcome to you, ma'am. Thank you for accepting to be a part of our panel discussion. Dear panelists, it's been an absolute privilege and honor to have you with us today. My heartfelt gratitude to all of you for accepting our invitation. We truly appreciate and acknowledge your presence and time.
And at the very end, I would like to welcome our moderator of the panel discussion, Mr. Mahesh Ramachandran. Mr. Ramachandran is a successful serial and social entrepreneur turned investor. He is an angel investor, mentor, independent director supporting innovative startups and help build the ecosystem. Mahesh is a distinguished Sloan Fellow of London Business School. He is Leadership Council and Program Management Group member of FinBlue. Mahesh Ramachandran brings with him several decades of rich and varied experience in the field of entrepreneurship, investing, fintech, rural marketing, digital transformation, leadership, mentoring, and governance. And we feel immensely pleased to welcome you, sir, to moderate today's panel discussion. Over to you, sir.
That's wonderful, and thank you very much for your kind and generous introduction. Good evening to those joining from this part of the world. Good morning and good afternoon to those joining virtually from other parts of the world, including our eminent panelists. It's great to be back at Jain University, and thank you once again for your kind invitation. Before I start the deliberations, I would like to acknowledge the support of Dr. Chenraj Roychand, Chairman and Chancellor, Dr. Raj Singh, Vice Chancellor, Dr. Dinesh Nilkant, Director, Center for Management Studies, and Dr. Varsha Agarwal, Summit Convener. Thank you very much for your support. Maybe I should actually start the deliberations with Mr. Hansen. Thank you very much for joining our panel discussion. It is wonderful to have you here, Mr. Hansen. We would like to hear about the work you do on human rights, labor rights, and anti-corruption, and how it leads to socially responsible business. In this context, we would like you to start with your view on what does responsible business conduct mean?
Thanks a lot, Mahesh. And thanks again to all of you for letting me participating. So we are basically living in an extremely globalized world. Wherever you produce goods, wherever you produce services, or recruit manpower for services, we actually have let's say an international globalized value chain. So we may have construction buildings in Denmark, in Qatar, where I work for the FIFA World Cup, workers coming from the Philippines, from India, from Nepal, and so on. So companies have a huge responsibility. They can contribute to progress worldwide. They can contribute to startups. They can contribute to all kind of, let's say, innovative developments. But companies also have responsibilities. We are used to say or look at responsibilities for companies as the responsibility from companies to the stakeholders, or in particular the shareholders. But that have changed over the last couple of years, over the last 10 years, basically. So now there's an increasing awareness about responsible business conduct for companies. And what does that mean? What is responsible business conduct? That is that companies are expected to respect internationally recognized human rights, to minimize or avoid impact on the environment, and of course, not to engage in any corrupt practices. So that's the main 3 pillars of responsible business conduct. And that's not something that I just come up with because I find it's interesting. It's something that have been developed over the last 10, 15, 20 years. In 2011, we got the UN guiding principles for business and human rights. And we also had the OECD guidelines for multinational companies, all talking about the responsibility of companies. Not the responsibility of states only, but the responsibility of companies. So companies are expected to, of course, respect human rights. They are expected to have policy commitment and actually publicize their policy commitment. And they're supposed to do something called due diligence, responsible business conduct due diligence. That means that companies have to identify, assess, address, track, and communicate their negative impacts on human rights, environmental impacts as well if they have risk related to corruption. So this is the expectations, and they are created now through standards. They have been incorporated into national legislation. We have the European Union that are also coming up with different directives that also integrate this idea about due diligence. We usually talk about due diligence. That is something you have to do as a lawyer. What are the threats or risks to a company? But when we talk about due diligence in responsible business conduct, it is the risk from the company towards the society, towards people. So that is the focus now. That is much more on what is the risk from companies towards the society at large. And of course, if you don't comply with this, if you don't understand this as a company, you may lose your social license to operate or your legal license even to operate. And at the same time, this also creates a huge advantage for a number of smaller companies, because if they can show that they themselves are respecting human rights, are not having a negative impact or are managing their negative impacts on the environment, and they don't engage in corrupt practices, they will become much more attractive to a larger global company. So it's also if I advise startups, advise small companies, I say, well, you just have to integrate it from the very start, this idea about responsible business conduct, because that will make you in a better position when it comes to your competition, both when it comes to other companies, but also when it comes to public procurement and other business relations, investors, etc. So that is my work. That is how I engage with company, or company engage me. I contribute to improving the management system, addressing what are the risks they have, identifying the risk, and then I support the companies in coming up with bright ideas of how to do things differently. That could be supply chain management, but it could also be if you have a product, for instance, how will that particular product be impacting human rights? How can you make the product integrating, for instance, issues about persons with disabilities? How can you make that as part of your product development as well? So you both respect human rights, but also support the improvement of human rights and access for disadvantaged groups in society. I think that for now, I think if you have any other questions, of course, I would like to. I can talk about this for hours, but I think I will rest my case for now. I think, Mahesh, you are on mute.
You're on mute.
Oh, thank you so much. I can understand your passion, and thank you for enlightening us with the definition of responsible business conduct and what it means, and highlighting the key attributes, the importance of complying with these key attributes: human rights, labor rights, and anti-corruption. I may actually come back to you if time permits, But in the meantime, let me actually move on to Dr. Aileen, and we are very grateful to you to join us as a panelist today. Thank you very much for that. You are the executive director of this wonderful organization, GEM, the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. GEM is a trusted resource on entrepreneurship for key international organizations like the United Nations. You are very passionate about the power of entrepreneurship to attain the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, UN SDG. Could you help us understand how entrepreneurship helps attain the UN Sustainable Development Goals?
Yes, thank you for your question, Mahesh. I would actually almost reformulate that question and say, and as an answer, that entrepreneurship actually will drive the attainment of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And the reason I say this is that, well, many years ago, I mean, people will have heard that I worked for WWF for some 13 years, managing programs across the world. I began to realize that business was really part of the problem when it came to saving species or saving the environment. And I joined IMD Business School with a very precise intent, which was to understand the business case for sustainability in business and industry. And I carried out 15 years of research in that area of building business cases for sustainability and applying them, implementing them within countries. I began to realize towards the end of that period with IMD Business School that many of the big corporations had actually picked all what I call the low-hanging fruits on sustainability. You know, they had actually worked around the regulation, you know, they had introduced some voluntary initiatives, voluntary partnerships, etc., etc. And I began to realize that they were hitting the wall in terms of further changes. And so that meant that the innovation was incremental, you know. I mean, in most industries, the innovation was what I call incremental, little step-by-step changes, very important changes, but nevertheless not game-changing changes. So now we are, I think, in the arena where entrepreneurship can make the difference. We need radical innovation and we need systemic change. And that change will come outside of traditional industry. And I think we have very many indicators that that currently is beginning to happen. But if you take all of the Sustainable Development Goals, I could make a case for you for every single one of the goals, how entrepreneurship can contribute to attaining that goal. And I have been witness to many entrepreneurs that have taken one or two of the goals, have built their entire business around them, and really are creating companies with purpose all around the world. Now, I wouldn't say yet that we have reached, you know, the let's say the zenith, which is to have that sort of societal shift, the systemic shift that I referred to earlier, but it will come. One of the things in our research at Global Entrepreneurship Monitor is that we have been asking the question, what is the purpose? Why are you creating a business, you know? And we give several alternatives. One of the alternatives is making a difference in the world. And we noticed that since we introduced that question 3 years ago, young people are increasingly striking that off as being one of the main reasons that they are creating businesses. Not so much in the older generation, but young people. So I expect that soon, I hope more quickly than anything else, we will see a societal shift towards entrepreneurship for the goals.
That's awesome. I think Thank you very much for the emphasis on the point that entrepreneurship is not about helping to attain SDG, but it would drive the UN SDG from incremental change to radical change, disrupting the way we do business. As you said, the systemic change is important and the why part of doing business, the purpose. I would come back to you about your other passion and expertise on food sustainability as time permits, but I would like to now move on to Ms. Mariana. So wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for joining. You are the founder and director of Marakai, a social project in emotional education, which has been recognized as one of the best programs in its field in the Latin America Education Conference. We are having this conference hosted by Jain, deemed to be university, joined by thousands of people from academia. Can you provide some insights on how your coaching helps in sustainable development goals on ensuring quality education, please?
Hi, thank you for having me here. Okay, yes, our program is helping in the fourth objective, which is quality education, as well as the third objective in terms of health and well-being. I want to explain a little bit the background of the program, how it started. I was working and I have worked around 14 years in education. And in 2017, that was like my breaking point. I felt like traditional education is not leading nowhere, because I think it's like if you focus only in traditional education, just giving contents, and at the end you're just preparing like soldiers for the labor and battlefield, you know. And at the end, even if you have a lot of degrees and masters and doctors and whatever, if you are not, if you don't feel happy, if you don't value yourself, if you don't feel connected to the divine, to your community, you won't go nowhere. So I started, let's say, I started knowing a lot of people with a lot of degrees and stuff, and they were they didn't have any self-esteem at all. And in like 2017, I said, you know what, I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna start my passion. So I stopped working in the safe zone, and I started studying neuroscience, going to have a lot of courses and stuff, and I didn't even have any resources. So the thing is, here in Latin America, in small countries, I'm from Mexico, but I live in Nicaragua, which is in Central America. So we have a lot of people with potential and they want to make a change, but the thing here, women actually feel very insecure because it's very patriarchal, I say, like machista, you know, like only guys, only men. So no, you can do it yourself, you know. So I started joining another like a purposeful woman, and we started creating a curriculum, a program of social emotional learning through some mindfulness practices as well. And we started giving conferences and workshops for free for 2 years, all around Nicaragua, Mexico, and Costa Rica, and different places for free. And we started seeing changes, you know. So that's when we said, no, we have to continue doing this and we have to scale it up. And we were scaling to Mexico, to different states, when 2020 pandemic started. So in a sense, it was a good way of accelerating things, because everything we had before was physical, you know, books and workshops written and conference in person and workshops in person. So we had to do everything digital now, digitalize all our contents and stuff. And then, so then in 2020, Dell Technologies, Alessio Hagen, which is a Latin American director of Digital Cities contact me, and he said, you know, we like your program. I think this program can help during the pandemic all the Mexican kids, because the program is for primary kids, elementary kids, and we're starting the youth program. And he said, okay, let's give me all your contents, and we are creating a platform. It's called 360 platform. So we offer this platform to the Mexican government, the state of Querétaro, and they incorporated the program. And so we train around 40,000 teachers, and in around 150 public places, schools, small schools, rural schools in Mexico now are using our program. So we were super excited because this is the first time we actually like go big, no? But now that we are creating more and more stuff. We're creating games, mindful games, and also board games for the students and stuff. But now that the challenge right now is getting resources and getting the funding to continue, because here in these parts of the world, big companies have their own departments, and they don't really give you or help you with small initiatives, you know. And so that's the point that we're right now. But I think first of all, you have to know your emotions. You have to manage your emotions in a wise way, in a healthy way. You have to find your purpose, like your calling, and then just do it. And also value yourself, because there's a lot of people around. They're gonna be discouraging you, like, no, it's very hard. No, you'll never do it here. And so you have to be very, very resilient and very strong, and be, I say, be very clear on your objective. And I think if you're clear and you feel that your project is gonna be helping others, magic shows, you know, people show, and stuff happens that you don't really know how it happened. In 2018, they invited me to Harvard Graduate School of Education, the Latin American Education Conference, which I was like the only maybe project, like really small project, and the other ones were like very well recognized all over the place. And so I think these magic situations happen when you have a clear goal and you have a backup of what you're doing. So that's what we're doing in Nicaragua: workshops, conferences, programs, board games. We do meditations. We do a lot of fun stuff here with kids and with youth, and also with the teachers and parents.
Absolutely fabulous, and congratulations on what you have done so far and what you're set out to do. It's fantastic, and for our students and academia listening to you, you have driven a key message. Irrespective of the degrees and other qualification one possesses, we need to have the emotional maturity. You had the courage to follow your passion, be resilient, have clarity of objective. That itself is a great role model and a character of an entrepreneur, a purposeful woman. At Jain University, we strive to ensure quality education. Thank you for your inputs and insight. Thank you again. If I may move on to Mr. Zohar Hood, you have significant experience in fintech and blockchain, an area of passion for me as well. Thank you for your time and joining to share your exciting discussion. You are a seasoned leader and innovator, having proven track record of growing fintech companies from birth to fruition. A proven expert that can combine both deep technical and business aspect of the fintech business. How do you see fintech as a driver for social change, given its ability to create large level impact within a short span of time?
Thank you very much for having me. Good day, everyone. Calling in from frozen New York, so that's why I'm wearing a coat, like -12 here. Thank you for your question. I would start with the notion, this is my 5th startup. So for those that are, discouraged or anything like that, do not follow your passion like the previous, and your calling and your purpose. And I'm very excited about this particular venture because it was created from, even though I'm not young, from a social aspect, actually, the notion of governance. I've always believed that privacy is a social right. And we are seeing privacy being betrayed or, misused. Let's say our data is the social, or is the source of all issues around trust with the organizations that we're working with. And if those organizations, a la Mr. Hansen's, recommendation, start treating their customers and their users and their citizens' data in a better way, I do see that data is actually, and it works in fintech and almost any other industry, data could be the equalizing, democratizing feature as it relates to citizens' capabilities. And we've seen that in a project we were invited to. We're an embedded privacy platform. We allow organizations to embed privacy into many different workflows. And one example was when we were invited by the World Economic Forum to join their Global Innovation Program and really work with the Indian government, actually. And there was several white papers that were published by the World Economic Forum where we contributed a lot of technology and data. And it's as simple of how can we democratize data in the Indian markets. And this was particular in markets related to agriculture and to water consumption in different states. And how do we get the local citizens to be able to monetize or have some skin in the game for the data that they produce back up to the governments in the states of India to make sure that there's equal opportunity and equal ability to have skin in the game as it relates to data distribution. Data is the next goal. And as we move towards the digital economy, the fragmentation of data and the ability for us to control it becomes less and less centralized to us and more decentralized in the different vendors that we deal with. Well, we have decided to find technology that changes that business model, that allows the corporation to allow their customers to have skin in the game for providing better insights, but providing better data in a trusting environment. My son is a type 1 diabetic, chronic disease. And since he was 11 years old, we've been getting a lot of different advertisements. So I decided to actually create a company and create a GPS of where my son's data was being used. And there I figured out that there's a lot of parties in between companies that are sharing data that should not be shared without my consent, or at least without my son's consent. So decided to create technology to create a GPS on data, basically creating digital rights management and treating every data, including mine, as though it was a song on Spotify or music or a Netflix show. If I did that, then my privacy and ability to allow the rest of the, let's say, banking industry, in case of fintech, to use my data will be at my control and not at the bank's control. And I think it's a great equation it's about time to change the social dilemma and to give corporations the ability to give their clients a little skin in the game as it relates to their data consumption. Enough with these violations, enough with these breaches. This is the time to give privacy down to the individual. And I believe that unfortunately, the individual does not have any power on his own. And it's the right of the corporations, the governments, whoever is deciding on these privacy regulations to make sure that they give their clients the power and the democracy in owning their own data.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you have actually shown the importance of privacy, how to bring the governance on managing data. I think you are showing how if one had a full control over the data and was able to track and control how it is being used, even after it actually leaves one's possession. I think this is a very key thing as we actually live in a world where the data is getting exploded and copied and recopied again for everybody to use and monetize except us. So I think this would actually really allow us to regain control of the data. And thank you for the wonderful work you are doing through one creation and your own passion. And it's fabulous to have you here today. Thank you so much, Zohar.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. And I think it's time for me to actually move to Mr. Manish Chaudhary. Great to have you on board. You are on a mission to improve employability, skill quotient, and mental health. You are associated with Skilling India, a new age skills development organization. In Peak Mind, you are committed to enabling the discovery of emotional strengths and enhance the wellness quotient. Under your foundation, you are picking up projects that impact multiple SDGs for the long term, aiming for bigger impact with micro and small funding initiatives. Can you please highlight what impact has been achieved and how you managed to do it at scale, please?
Sure. Thanks, Mahesh. So I'll talk primarily about Peak Mind. So what we are doing is looking at enabling families achieve what is their biggest dream. And their biggest dream in general is that their child or children should be successful. It could mean success in competitions, in career, lifestyle, entrepreneurship, and so on. We are helping teenagers and students develop emotional empowerment, the necessary skills that will always complement the academic rigor, develop joy and positive mindset without succumbing to the negative effects of stress. So these are basic but very critical skills that don't get taught formally. Skills like goal setting, time management, focus, productivity, motivation, resilience, grit, perseverance, peak performance, and so on. Apart from skills for which training programs get conducted, like mindfulness, stress management, emotional well-being, and so on. So as an example, every year about, that 2.5 million students in India appear for less than 100,000 seats in various engineering medical colleges. And these are seen as a sure pathway to this success. So for this audience, we have created a platform called Peak Mind Compete, we already worked with more than 5,000 teenagers, helping create more mental space in a leg up for their test prep journey. Using technology, personalized coaching, we have case studies of students who are looking to give up their exam journey totally, who are potentially suicidal because of disappointments, and they're now among the frontrunner rankers in their journey. This year, we'll hopefully be impacting more than 200,000 teenagers into making a delta difference in their probability of success. But because success rates remain less than 5% nationally, apart from bridging this inequity, we also expect to create emotionally stronger students and citizens. So even those who do not clear the exams, helping them leverage so many other opportunities that the world has to offer. We're working with teenagers from 7th grade onwards, working with schools and integrating our programs into the school curriculum. And schools have a long decision cycle, as you're aware. We also deliver directly to the child through open boot camps, through open programs, working with both child as well as the parents. We also work with select corporates. We're working with more than 3,000 corporate employees to help them manage their emotional strength. And this helps them deliver at their peak, both in their work environment as well as family environments. As I said earlier, there's a mix of coaching and positive psychology principles to develop the exact same skills of time management, stress management, focus, goal setting, and so on, applied in a different environment. At the height of COVID wave 2, we also ran a complimentary emotional care helpline through the Purnatham Foundation, supporting patients and their families who are facing isolation in hospitals, seeing death all around them, developing negative thoughts. And happy to report we prevented at least 8 possible suicides that came up with us. Also working with leading certification bodies to remove inequities. We sponsor professional certifications for needy students, where small 1,000 to 2,000 rupee certifications as a one-time cost can make a delta impact of at least 1,000 to 2,000 rupees monthly salary for someone. Overall, Mahesh, looking at doing our bit as a socially responsible venture, supporting different SDGs, very specifically SDG 3 on good health and well-being, SDG 4 on quality education, and SDG 8 on decent work and economic growth.
Wonderful. I think this is fabulous. I just wanted actually to also add to the point that you actually touched upon. I think,
Mr. Mahesh,
yeah.
Mahesh, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to acknowledge the presence of Dr. David Acker here. He has joined us.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Dr. David. Yeah. You can continue, sir. No problem.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. And thank you for joining. And Manish, I think you touched upon a very interesting point about the impact of COVID. It's not only actually affecting the physical health of people, but also the mental health. I know of a lot of people who got into depression after that. And thank you for saving lives. I think it's been fabulous to know that. I think you have also done some of very interesting work on with the parents, children, corporates, a lot of interesting skills applied in a very different context. And also thank you for the work you do with the Purnatvam Foundation, the charitable arm of the Purnatvam Group. And I think you've actually been able to give back to the society, and it does a lot of interesting work in the fields of education, healthcare, women, food and nutrition, and child empowerment. Wonderful to have you here, and we'll come back to you with more questions. Thank you for that. And let me actually just move on to my next question, more specifically to Dr. Eileen. Can you provide us some insights about the work you do in food industry sustainability strategy, please? You are on mute, I'm sorry.
Apologies. Thank you for that question. Food industry sustainability has really dominated my career, and the reason for that is because the food industry presents a range of sustainability challenges that is really almost unparalleled in other industries. And the food industry happens to be one of those frontline industries that affects each and every one of us because, of course, we all eat. And so we are very emotionally affected by the fact that a food industry, food and beverage industry indeed, would not be sustainable, responsible, producing food that is healthy and having a positive effect on our lives. So I actually chose the food industry as the subject of my PhD for these very reasons, and also because when I was working with WWF, I actually flew over regions of Indonesia, for example, Africa, where I definitely saw the impact on the landscape of large-scale agricultural initiatives. You know, this is something that absolutely fascinates me, the interface between people, economy, and environment at the very local level. And so I have been engaged in many, many initiatives over the years, and specifically have worked with corporations that are like, such as Nestle. I'm in Switzerland, so I have worked a lot with Nestle. I have worked also with Unilever, and basically, you know, the top 15 major corporations that are responsible for a large portion of the food we eat in the developed world. And the panoply of challenges are absolutely enormous, but also the efforts of the industry are very interesting and sometimes actually impressive, and sometimes actually not entirely recognized, because often, you know, the media is out there, it will spread a lot of the bad stories, but not really talk about the good stories, you know. So I've had the privilege of working with these large companies on sustainability initiatives that they are engaging in, where unprecedented action is being taken, through partnership. If you remember, you will remember that Goal 17 of the Sustainable Development Goals is partnerships for the goals. And the food industry currently is very much engaged in partnerships for the goals, amongst competitors, which actually was a very difficult hill to get over, because when I first started working in the area of sustainability, competitors didn't talk to each other. I mean, they simply did not talk to each other. You have a situation today where players that are competing are sitting around the table when it comes to, for example, sustainable agriculture efforts. Now, I'm not claiming by any means that the issues are being dealt with in as accelerated a way as they need to be, but I think it's very encouraging to see those kind of partnerships cropping up all over the place. And so, well, I think I mentioned earlier that I think we're at a period in the evolution of the sustainability movement, if you like, where incremental change won't just do it anymore. And now we're looking towards entrepreneurship and, in fact, in these large companies, intrapreneurship, of employees. And by the way, this is something we also track at Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, is the activities of entrepreneurs within large-scale companies. And I think that we really, what will be necessary more and more are very, let's say, sophisticated partnerships that work together between stakeholders and between competitors to actually make sure that these initiatives reach scale in the end of the day. But that's the type of work that I've been doing, is mainly because of my NGO background, also being very interested in stakeholder activities and partnerships, particularly for the Sustainable Development Goals.
Wonderful. As you rightly emphasized, I think the incremental changes are not enough and adequate. I think we need to have a disruptive change that needs to actually be a systemic one as well. Thank you for emphasizing it again and again. Thank you so much for that. I think I have a question for most of the other panelists, which is to understand from their perspective, from their area of expertise and work. Entrepreneurship has evolved to solve social issues at scale in a sustainable manner. What interesting trends do you see in your area of expertise that is happening in this area? If I may actually start with Mr. Hansen, please.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question and an interesting observation. What are the trends within my field of work when it comes to that? I think one of the, maybe it's a little bit out of the scope, but I think one of the interesting developments is, of course, the whole idea about the due diligence. What does it mean for the value chain, for anyone in the value chain, from the smaller companies up through, and what does it mean? We have to find other ways of collaborating, as Aline says. That is my experience as well, that it's more and more about partnerships in order to address large concerns. So I think that is actually something that is a common trend, that companies understand that they cannot do it on their own. If they want to make changes, they need to work together. I think another one that is coming up in my mind, and again going back to entrepreneurship, is also the whole idea about a just transition. So we are talking about changing the climate changes, all that. We have to have greener economy and so on. But what does that actually mean when you start to move society towards other products, other ways of doing things? Someone is left behind, and I think it's so important that we'll find work for all those that will be left behind in this transition, because otherwise we'll create another problem. And again, I think that is where the small and middle-sized, small and micro and small and medium-sized companies comes into the picture, also to find other ways of creating jobs at local levels, where companies is moving from one economy to another. in this transition. So to me, the just transition is I think is an area that needs to be explored much more. Otherwise, we'll lose a lot of people behind, I think. So.
Thank you very much for that. That's a very interesting observation and trend. And if I may actually also request Zohar, what's happening in your area of expertise and what's the trend there?
Sorry, I think I'm building on what was said here before. And, you know, when we started raising funds for the technology that I've built, the first question that people asked us is, who are your competitors? And the answer is that my biggest competitors are organizations doing absolutely nothing. And that's really, you know, goes back to, you know, previous statements around the pace of change. And I think we're seeing the pace of change and companies taking more serious approach towards, you know, how to deal with their customers. And I would hope that the motivation is not compliance, because when you look at compliance as a motivation to taking any technology, you then end up with, for instance, in our case, privacy regulations like in Europe, GDPR, which sounds great, but the enforcement of the citizens' right is not really enforced. Meaning, I love GDPR, but why don't you tell me if Google will be willing to delete me from their visual map in Europe under GDPR rules? The answer is they won't. Okay, and that means that the rule was not enough, and that means that these type of things should not percolate from the top down, but from the bottom up, and should actually start with the social responsibility of organizations to treat their customers fairly. And once that's done, I think that the business model will actually materialize that instead of taking citizens' data and misusing them or making them write, you know, sign a privacy notice once a year with 21 pages that nobody knows what they're going to do, that equation is changing, not just because of compliance, but because it's the right thing to do. So that's really what I'm seeing from 2 years ago when I started the business to now. Corporations really are starting to take care and take notice of these social rights to their customers.
Thank you. Wonderful points that is. I would love to actually continue this discussion. It's been a fascinating and lovely session, and I actually learned a lot, and I'm sure many of you listening to this, you may also have a lot of questions like me, but I think in the interest of time, I need to actually kind of have a hard stop. My sincere thanks to the panelists for your wonderful insights and your time. I thank the audience for their attention and congratulate the organizers again. Like you, I'm looking forward to hear from the Guru in the next session. Wherever you are, take care and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mahesh Ramachandran.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Mahesh, and all the panelists for being here. My special thanks to Mr. Mahesh for moderating this wonderful discussion, along with all our esteemed panelists for bringing in your expertise and experience before us and engaging in such fruitful, constructive, and open exchanges throughout the session. Thank you so much, all of you. I also thank Dr. Rama for getting us connected with Mr. Mahesh Ramachandran, who extremely was helpful in conducting this entire panel discussion. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, all the panelists.
Thank you, Mahesh, sir. Thank you all the panelists.
It was a wonderful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Over to
On
Dr.
behalf
Shiva.
of Center for
Thank you, Dr. Varsha. Thank you, all the panelists. Once again, a very warm welcome to all our participants, delegates, speakers, panelists, and dignitaries to the 9th day of the International Entrepreneurship Summit, AVLOKAN 2.0. There is but one God who is self-illuminated, the creator of knowledge, wisdom, and intellect, the one who relies on truth. And this God is known as Guru, the teacher, the preceptor, the dispeller of ignorance, spreading light to millions of minds. On this note, I invite Professor Vaishnavi to impart our branding guru, Dr. David Akar, a soulful, devotional welcome with Guru Vandana. and Dr. Abhishek Venkateshwar for the interpretation of the same.
Thank you, ma'am. Akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam tatpadam darshitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha.
The Guru, whose form is one whole, which is indivisible, present everywhere, pervades in everything. The Guru, who has seen the feet of the Lord, he who has experienced oneness with the ultimate. Salutations, O blessed one.
Ajnanatimirandasya Jnanam Janashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
He who removes darkness of ignorance of the unenlightened by applying the ointment of knowledge. He who opens the eyes. Salutations into that Holy Guru.
Thank you so much to both of you for such a soulful Vandana. It is indeed an apt form of greeting to a Guru like Dr. Akar. As the entire ambience is filled with the devotional vibes, let's welcome our most awaited speaker. On this note, I invite Summit convener Dr. Varsha Agarwal to present to us a legendary speaker of the session. Over to Dr. Varsha.
Thank you, Dr. Shiva. Before I introduce our esteemed speaker of the session, I'm reminded of a quote by Warren Buffett that says, "Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago." When it comes to concept of branding, we get inspired by the legend who planted the seeds of modern branding, what we thrive on today. And he is none other than Dr. David Akar. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a glad welcome we bring to you this evening, filled with desires, hopes, and dreams. We all share the presence of such a great personality is truly a blessing. I'm sure all of us will have a lot to take back from this session today. Dr. David Akar, popularly known as the father of modern branding, serves as vice chair at Profit. He's a recognized authority on branding who has developed several recognizable concepts and has received numerous awards for his contributions to the science of marketing. Akar is the creator of the Akar model, a marketing model that views brand equity as a combination of brand awareness, brand loyalty, and brand associations. The model outlines the necessity of developing a brand identity, which is a unique set of brand associations representing what the brand stands for and offers to customers an aspiring brand image. Akar primarily sees brand identity as consisting of 8 to 12 elements which fall under 4 perspectives: brand as product, brand as organization, brand as person, and brand as symbol. In 2015, David Akar was inducted into the American Marketing Association Hall of Fame for his lifetime achievements in marketing. Akar has authored and published hundreds of articles and 17 books, including Owning Game-Changing Subcategories, Uncommon Growth in the Digital Age, Akar on Branding, 20 Principles That Drive Success, Brand Relevance, Spelling Silos, Brand Portfolio Strategy, Building Strong Brands, and many more. His books have been translated in 80 languages and sold over 1 million copies. His words and teaching have offered guidance and inspiration to marketing leadership at many of the world's leading brands. In the words of Joseph V. Tripodi, Chief Marketing and Commercial Officer, Coca-Cola, David Acker has truly given the business world a gift. David is an active branding consultant, professor emeritus at the Haas School of Business, UC Berkeley, and a revered speaker and thought leader. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have stars in the sky and one right here before us. We are honored to welcome one of the brightest stars the marketing world has seen so far. A long pending desire has been fulfilled today with the presence of Dr. David Acker. Fellow members, please join me in giving our guest the most cordial of welcomes. Over to you, Dr. Acker.
Thank you. So can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Well, I'm honored to be here, and I'm excited about your event. I'm going to talk about how branding plays a role in disruptive innovation, which is what entrepreneurship is all about. And that's kind of my role, is to take a branding perspective, which usually is left out. Let me start by answering the question that was just posed to the group about sort of what's going on in the sustainability world. We also can call, instead of sustainability, you can call it ESG, environmental, social, and governance. And that's a term that was started about 15 years ago. And that is a descriptive term that includes what's going on in that arena. And let me take a branding perspective. And in fact, I'm just finishing a book that will be out next fall that is about the concept of a signature social program. And there's really four kind of branding elements that I think are not emphasized enough when we talk about sustainability and ESG. First is that having a social program is no longer a nice to have. It's an imperative. You have to have it. You have to have it because there's a need out there that firms are well suited to address, and governments cannot do that by themselves. Governments are not agile enough. Governments are not close enough to the problems. And so there's a role for business. And people are realizing that, and employees are insisting on it. Especially younger employees don't want to go to a company that's just in there to make sales and profits. They want a higher purpose. They want a social purpose. And many customers are in the same way. It may not be a huge number of customers, but it doesn't take 10 or 15% of the customers can mean the difference between being very profitable or struggling. Investors even insist on it. And does the public at large. And so your brand as an organization really depends on that. The second thing is that you need to communicate what you do. You need to communicate your passion. You need to communicate your commitment. You need to communicate your impact. And how do you do that? Well, most environmental programs involve your operations. They involve things like reducing the use of energy, reducing the use of water, reducing waste, and those kinds of things are, first of all, similar across all companies. It's hard for yours to stand out. They're almost never branded, so it's hard to communicate. If you look at governance, those are just things that you're not supposed to do bad things. You're not supposed to hire slave labor. You're not supposed to mistreat your employees. It's not very inspirational. And even among social programs, a lot of them turns to be grants or volunteers of your employees. And that's not branded. That's not easy to communicate. So what I argue is that you need signature social programs that are branded. And you can use those brandeds to represent yourself, to be the flagship of your total ESG effort. And so you Salesforce.com, for example, I'll speak about in a few minutes. And they have a program 1-1-1, which is a branded total philosophy. Lifebuoy has Help a Child Reach 5. Dove has a self-esteem program. Those are all branded programs that are easy to talk about because there's stories that go with them, because there's emotion. There's people are empathetic to the social need involved, and people even get involved. And so you have to use those branded programs to tell your basic message. And when you come to manage those programs, all the branding tools we have come into play. You need to create awareness, you treat it in energy. You need to develop a profession. People need to know what your mission is. And you have to create involvement and loyalty and engagement. And those are all branding tools. And finally, there's a new element involved, and that is that you have to use this ESG effort, or this sustainability effort, or this CSR effort, whatever you call it. You need to use that to help your business. And that's a very delicate thing to do, because you don't want your authenticity to suffer, but yet it needs to help the business. Because if it does, that means the business is going to have a long-term commitment, can justify investing behind your program. And if it doesn't, it will be just a dead cost. It will be vulnerable. It will not get sort of vitality, innovation, the organizational skills behind it. And to do that, how is it going to help the business? Well, the main way it helps the business is through the business brand. It's going to give the brand visibility. Lifebuoy Reach 5 program for Lifebuoy in India, they had 3 videos that explained the program in 3 villages. They got 44 million views. Now that's visibility and energy you could never get by talking about bar soap. And it can affect perceptions. So the perception of Lifebuoy as a company that's only interested in selling bar soap is completely changed with Help a Child Reach 5. And it creates ongoing loyalty, and the sales of Lifebuoy are dramatically affected by this program. So anyway, I think what's missing in a lot of the discussion on ESG is branding. And you need a signature brand, and you need to use branding tools to do that. Now, this is an entrepreneurship program, so I'm going to talk now about entrepreneurship, and you'll see that the whole concept of an EGG program and signature social programs will play a role. So I'm going to share my screen and talk about branding's role in disruptive innovation. And let's see, I need to advance the screen. I got to figure out how to do that. Yeah,
it's proper, sir.
How do I do that?
It's good, sir, now.
It's what?
Yeah, it's good now.
Huh. Okay, I guess I can do it, but I can't do it when it's full screen. Oh,
Sir,
there I did it.
Yeah,
Okay, good. We're good. I'm always amazed when this works. So let me just talk about digital or innovation, disruptive innovation, and tie it into the concept of a healthy ESG program. And because I think this is really the heart of entrepreneurship. And it all started when I did a lot of work in Japan, and I got a hold of Japan's beer data. And I noticed that over 35 years, the market share trajectory only changed 4 times, and they all were because of disruptive innovation. Started with Asahi Super Dry beer in 1986. So I looked at the computer industry, I looked at the automobile industry, and I looked at a bunch of other industries, and I came to the same conclusion. The only way to grow, well, there's some rare exceptions, but the only way to grow really is to own a game-changing subcategory. And to do that, you need disruptive innovation. And in particular, the more conventional thing is incremental innovation, and my brand is better than your brand marketing is not a growth route. Just never ends up in growth. And if you're an entrepreneur, that's the name of the game. That's why you're there, right? Is to grow. And digital has put game-changing subcategories on steroids. They have more impact. There's more of them. They grow faster. We've always had growth driven by new disruptive subcategories. Always have had that, going back 100 years. But in the last 2 decades, there's been so much more frequently. They have so much more impact, and they happen faster. And there's several reasons for that. One is digital technology. It isn't too long ago we didn't have GPS, we didn't have smart factories, we didn't have the Internet of Things, didn't have artificial intelligence, big data, or voice recognition. So all these digital technologies provide vehicles for disruptive innovation. And you look at market access. It wasn't too long ago that if you had a disruptive innovation that you wanted to introduce to the marketplace, you either needed a personal sales force if you were a B2B company, or you needed access to retail if you were a consumer company. And you needed an advertising program. You needed to go into print, or you needed to go on television. That took tens of millions of dollars off, and it took almost a year to pull off. But look where we've come. And now we've got websites. You can literally be in the marketplace in a week. We've got e-commerce. You can literally communicate to your audience in a week. And we have e-commerce. So you can literally have your customers ordering stuff in a week. It's not a year anymore. And that's one reason this disruptive innovation have. So what I'm really doing is pick, I'm on top of hundreds and hundreds of books on disruptive innovation. The Blue Ocean Strategy, Michael Porter, Mark Simpson, Clayton Christensen, and Tom Kelly, and so many more that have made such a contribution. But if you look at all these books, there's something missing. And that's branding. You read those books and you see nothing on branding. So the point of my book, Owning Game-Changing Subcategories, is to introduce branding into disruptive innovation. Well, so how do you win in that new competitive world? Well, you first have to create must-have, something that customers must have. And that's either going to be a new or superior buying or use experience, or a new or superior meaningful brand relationship. But it has to be compelling. It has to be must have. Salesforce.com was a disruptive interviewer in the software space. And they created cloud computing 21 years ago, 22 years ago. And cloud computing as a new subcategory had some must-haves. There was little investment required. You didn't have to buy this huge software package anymore. There was ongoing upgrades. You didn't have to once a year shut down your whole company for 2 weeks while they were upgrading. And then in the meantime, wait for a whole year to enjoy the ongoing upgrades that were occurring. Because they were ongoing. They were in the cloud. They were in the background. You didn't have to shut down your company, and you got up-to-date upgrades. And it was reliable because they had redundancy, and they had all kinds of software controls so that your software would be safe. Because that was a big barrier for people adapting cloud computing. But they did more. There was a founder story around Salesforce. From the time Salesforce started in 1999, they had an ESG story. They had a social program story, and it was branded. It was a signature story. It was 1-1-1. It meant that 1% of the people's time, 1% of the product, and 1% of the equity of the whole company was devoted to serving society, to addressing society needs. So there was a founder story about this, how the founder, Mark Benioff, he took a sabbatical. He went to India. He got a guru in India, a real guru, not a branding guru, a real guru. And that person taught him that you can be in a commercial exercise and still do good. So when he came back, he started this company in an apartment with 5 other people. He started Salesforce, and he started it with the idea that we are going to help society as well as make money. And he looked around for companies that were doing this, and he took the best ideas of different companies, and he developed the 1-1-1 model. So there's real substance behind his promise. And today, that 1% of that early company is worth a lot of money, and it's doing a lot of good. And not only 1% of his people's time is spent doing good, but it's more like 3%. And not only 1% of his product, but it's more like 4 or 5% of his product that they use the Salesforce software to help nonprofits do social good. So now we have a subcategory that's defined as cloud computing and doing social good. So if somebody were to duplicate the cloud computing part of Salesforce, they still would not participate in that new subcategory because it also has a social factor to it. So what we have is a subcategory is defined by these two things. It's the combination of those things. And this is quite common, that it's people are looking for sort of must-haves that they can own going forward. And a social program can be one of those. A social program can do so much for your entrepreneurial idea. So the second thing that is needed to be successful in creating disruptive innovation is branding. to have an exemplar brand that will position, scale, and trait barriers. The four challenges. First of all, you need a brand that will represent the subcategory. You need, the job one is to create your brand as the exemplar brand. You can do that in a couple of ways. You want to be the market leader. That's a really highly desirable, the one that owns 80% of the market or 90% of the market. But you also can do it by being a subcategory thought leader. Show passion for the product arena, to be the innovator. That's incidentally how you can compete with some giant retailers or giant e-commerce companies, because they don't have any passion for anything. They're just functional. They're just trying to be efficient about giving you access to products. So there's a company, a sleep mattress company, that there's mattress companies all over the place, retailers, e-commerce that sell mattresses, but there's one company, Casper, that's about sleep, not mattresses. They have a passion and knowledge. They're a thought leader about sleep. And that creates a whole new subcategory within mattresses. The Dollar Shave Club created its own subcategory in the e-commerce role of selling razors. And they were the irreverent, funny upstart. They ridiculed the old brand. They're the feisty underdog. They created a video, a 3-minute video that was hilariously funny, that was shared all over the place, that got 1,800 subscribers in 2 days' time. They started the company with that. They now, 4 years later, they sold the company for $1 billion. But it all started for their able to start this whole new subcategory and become its exemplar. It's not job 2, position the subcategory. So Salesforce did all these cool things to create a subcategory that was not only, nothing to buy, maintain, continuous upgrades and secure, but it was cool. It was advanced. It was not obsolete. And it had the 1-1-1 social program. Wall Street Journal in December 1999, 6 months after Salesforce started this stuff, had a headline: Salesforce takes the lead in the latest software revolution. That's being an exemplar. And can you imagine cloud computing, one of the most phenomenal new subcategories created in the last half century? The third job is to scale, scale, scale. You want to build a customer base. And you want to do that in part by over-investing at the outset. In marketing, we used to teach people that pricing, for entrepreneurship, pricing has 2 options. One is to be a skimmer. You put a very high price on your product to recover all your costs of development. While you are the owner of the of this kind of disruptive innovation, and then later on, you lower the price and sell it to the larger market. Can't do that anymore. There's no thought to starting out with a high price. You have to overinvest. You have to forego profits. And Amazon has done that really well. They haven't shown profits for 20 years because they're building their operations. You can scale using social media. I already mentioned the Dollar Shave Club. They got 1,800 subscribers in 2 days. And because they created a video that went live, incidentally, that video cost $3,000 to make. We're not talking about $20 million. We're talking about creating a story, such a content that it explodes. That's what Lifebuoy Help a Child Reach 5 did when they introduced these videos in India and got 44 million views. So I wrote a book called Creating Signature Stories, which really tells you that the way to communicate is not with facts and descriptions, which people just ignore, or if they don't ignore, they counter-argue. You have to do that with a story that's strong enough to go viral, to activate social media. So in these days, if you want disruptive innovation, you have to think big, you have to go fast, you have to scale. Finally, the job of an exemplar brand is to build barriers. Now, we've already seen a couple of barriers. If the strength of the must-haves it leads to the positioning of the subcategory in the exemplar brand, that's a big barrier. Because if a customer comes to the marketplace and wants one of these must-haves, the exemplar brand is going to be in a powerful position. It's going to be hard for others to become relevant. The base of the loyal customer that we get from scaling is a big barrier because all the good customers are gone when competitors try to enter. But there's some other barriers. We can be a continuous innovation moving target. So if we don't just stand still, so it's easier for people to imitate and become relevant, we instead just continually innovate, become a moving target. That's what Prius did. Prius owned the subcompact hybrid market for over 12 years. They had no competition for 12 years. And part of that was because every year they innovated, they changed, they added stuff to their product, made it better. Where you can have a branded innovation. Look at the the Japanese retailer Uniqlo. They created a fabric called heat tech, heat generating clothing that was lightweight, created heat to warm you up in the wintertime. The only place you can get heat tech is at Uniqlo because they own the brand, and other retailers, other clothing manufacturers copied the basic idea, but they didn't own the brand. They have Airism, which is something for the summertime, a breathable layer that releases heat and moisture. And they have Lifewear, which is a whole different style. The only place you can get heat tech, the only place you can get Airism, the only place you can get Lifewear is at Uniqlo. So Uniqlo has created a whole new subcategory of clothing retailing. And these are some of the must-haves. And they have others. It's stylish, it's not trendy, it's a breathtakingly low price, but it also has this technology. It's not just a cheap place. There's another kind of barrier, and that's brand communities. A brand community is a group of people that have a shared involvement or even passion in an activity, issue, or interest area, and it has an exemplar brand website as the focal point. So shared involvement or even passion in an activity, interest, or interest area, all centered around the exemplar brand website. The classic example is Harley-Davidson motorcycles, which was done before social media, before websites. It was done in the 70s and 80s, where all these motorcycle riders shared ideas about events and motorcycles, and they shared a real passion. there's a brand called Etsy. It's a hobbyist brand, a crafter's brand, people that make things like jewelry or other things that are very unique. And Etsy became a global marketplace. And they created this for their unique handcrafted pieces. And so Etsy allows people that make crafts and also people that that buy crafts to join a team, to get advice, to be inspired, and they join a community, and they do this through the Etsy marketplace and website. And so on there, you get introduced to crafts and you get to know them, you know their backstory, and you know something about their products. And that's a community. And once you have a community like that, it is really hard. And Amazon wanted to break into the Etsy market. They created a craft site on Amazon. It didn't work. There's no way that they could match this community. Sephora has a beauty insider community. You can join groups, you can talk about beauty, ask questions, post answers, be part of conversation. You can be inspired by seeing pictures of others that have used beauty products. You can chat live. You can discuss products and other shoppers in real time. You can get advice, read reviews, share your own recommendations. You can give advice. You can see community advice. What's on the calendar? What's going on? And of course, Sephora is part of the community. They're an active member of the community. So they're not talking to you about as a manufacturer of beauty products. They're talking to you as a member of the insider community. So what a brand community does is give you social links to like-minded people. It gives you the feeling of belonging, which is one of the basic needs of everybody. It gives you a brand involvement and a way to be loyal to a customer that represents a very high level of loyalty. So let's just come back. The only way to grow is to create new subcategories that change what people buy. And to be an exemplar brand, to position, scale, and create barriers. And you have to note, disruptive innovation needs branding. Disruptive innovation heretofore really has neglected branding. And it's really vital to the success. You have to know what you stand for. You've got to position not only your brand, but the whole subcategory. You've got to scale that subcategory, and you got to create barriers. And in doing so, one of the must-haves is going to be, going forward, social programs. And within social programs, everybody needs an environmental program. But that's not really the way to stand out. That's not really the way to demonstrate that you have passion about doing good socially, to addressing social needs and social problems and social issues. That's not going to work, and neither is giving grants and volunteering. You need really branded social programs that cause empathy, that are visible, that have stories behind them, and that impact, that really make a difference. And you have to be able to own them, and the brand is the key to that. So that's my story. The branding's role in disruptive innovation. It's around my last book, Owning Game-Changing Subcategories, but it's also around the book that I'm just finishing now, which is going to be called Signature Social Programs and 7 branding must-dos. So we've gone from must have to must do's. Anyway, I'm so glad to be here. I look forward to chatting with you and answering some questions you might have and being part of the conversation.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. With your permission, we will be taking some of the questions from our participants. Yeah. So the first question is, with FB and Amazon becoming mega platforms, are product and service brands becoming irrelevant? You want me to paste the question, sir? I can do so.
Are they on chat?
Just a second, sir. I'll do so. This is the first question.
Oh, okay. I can see part of a question there.
Yeah, this is the question, sir.
Oh, okay. Facebook and Amazon being many product and service brands becoming irrelevant. No, they're even more relevant than ever because if you're competing against Amazon, if Amazon is in your space, you need a strong brand to be seen in the Amazon world. And not only that, but you need a strong brand if you're going to compete against the Amazon world. In my book, I have a chapter that talks about the 6 or 7 ways you can compete against Amazon. And they're all brand related, and they all involve things like signature stories. It's I talked about one already, the mattress company that has a passion about sleeping, the Casper brand, and Amazon doesn't have passion about anything. Amazon is just functional, it's transactional. So that's one way to compete. I talked about another, Dollar Shave Club, that competes about being irrelevant, by being funny, by being humorous, by ridiculing the big guys like Amazon and the big retailers. Amazon can't be funny. I mean, is anybody ever laughed at anything Amazon done except to ridicule it? So you have the whole option of being humorous. Amazon doesn't have that option. You have the whole option of being a feisty underdog. Amazon can't be that. It can't have that personality. Amazon doesn't have any personality.
We have next question. I have pasted it here for your convenience. I'll read it also. Question from Mr. Sresh Podar. Evolving our product portfolio to give the customers an ambitious, greater choice and flexibility in the pursuit of wealth, will that help them make a bigger and better brand?
I think the whole concept of the brand portfolio is a complicated one, and I once wrote a book called Managing or Strategic Portfolio Management or Portfolio Strategy. It's very complicated, brand portfolios, and what if you want to have a new kind of service or a new feature to your product, the question is, how do you brand it? And does your existing brand stretch to cover it or not? And if it doesn't quite stretch, maybe you need a sub-brand, or maybe you need an endorsed brand, or maybe you need a new brand. And that question is, you can't, one of those answers is not always right. You have to study the situation, and it's very complicated. It will depend on your business strategy going forward. It'll depend on your brand vision going forward. It'll depend on whether the master brand that you have will help the new entry, and will the new entry help the master brand. So sometimes it's an easy decision. Yes, it'll help both directions. And other times it won't. And sometimes you have to make compromises. You have to say, well, we're going to do it anyway, because from a business model point of view, it's important that we do that. I mean, Mercedes came out with a small car, and it was kind of against their brand, but from a business model, they had to do it, and it turned out successfully. So it's very, very complicated. There's no general answer to the question of how do you brand a new version of your offering.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question is from Mr. Jinesh Kumar. He asked, is current technological advancement creating a branding rush? If yes, how to stand out from all?
Well, you stand out by not trying to be better than another competitor, but to create a whole new subcategory. So it's a different thought process. You don't want to be in the business of incremental innovation. I mean, incremental innovation is fine and has a role in business strategy, but that shouldn't be your only vehicle to compete. You also want to create whole new subcategories. And then you stand out by being the exemplar brand, by positioning a subcategory, by scaling and creating barriers. And this question suggests another issue, and that is that one of the things you want to do is to brand your advancements, to brand your new ideas, like Uniqlo did with Heat Tech. However, there's also the danger of branding too many things. And a high-tech company with engineers that are so proud of their little advance, they brand sometimes too much. And then you get too many brands, and you get brand clutter, and you get confusion, and you get sort of complexity. And so you sometimes have to simplify and just have a few really key brands.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question comes from Mr. Praveen Kumar. He asks, is customer equity a real thing? Do you see any shift in preference of businesses to invest upon these two?
Well, I don't use the term customer equity. To me, brand equity is three things. It's awareness, energy, relevance. It means people are aware of you when they think of a particular need, and in your credible offering. The second thing is perceptions. It's what your brand does, what it stands for, not only in terms of functional benefits, but also emotional and social benefits. And third, it's brand loyalty. And to me, customer equity is that third thing. It's brand loyalty. So it's an important part. You want customers that are engaged. You want customers that view what you offer as and own as must-haves. And you want customers to be part of a brand community. So I think that's part of building brand equity.
Yeah.
Why owners of big brands losing huge amount of their net worth? How will it impact brand equity? I'm not sure. What brands are using huge amount? Are you talking about the little downturn last week in the Netflix and so on, or what?
They're particularly talking about brand equity regarding the high net worth brands.
High net worth brands.
Yes.
You mean like Amazon and Microsoft?
Yeah, like Forbes.com, they have referred to, and they also want to ask regarding brand equity, how it will impact brand equity.
You mean when their stock price falls?
Yes, when big brands lose huge amount of net worth, how it impacts their brand equity.
Well, that's really interesting. I did several studies to indicate that brand equity drives stock return. And so if your equity goes up, stock return will go up. And stock return generally has very little effect on brand equity. But there are exceptions. I mean, General Electric for a long time had a strong brand because the stock did well consistently over time. So people sort of took away from that there was an acceptance of what General Electric was making, that and it was a successful stock, so it must be a successful jet engine. So they thought well of their jet engines. So I think that the long-term performance of a stock can have an effect of the brand equity. The stock is just always drifting lower or flat. People will assume, well, the product's probably not very exciting. And but I think short-term changes in stock price will have pretty little effect on brand equity. It might somehow affect the energy of the brand. And Netflix just dropped a lot recently. And so maybe some users will think, well, that it's less interesting, less energetic than it was 2 weeks ago. But I think it's probably going to have a minor effect.
One last question I will take now, sir, from our participant. Mr. D.S. Ray, he asked, do you think e-retailers like Amazon are giving importance to branding while fixing product portfolios?
I don't see the question anymore. Can you read it again?
Yes, sir. E-retailers like Amazon are giving importance to branding while fixing product portfolios.
I still don't understand. Amazon's fixing their own portfolio?
Yeah, just a second, sir. I'll just share this. Yeah. So this is the question.
I don't know what fixing product portfolios means. Amazon from the very beginning has been adding products to their portfolio. They started out as a book company and now they're in everything. And that's part of that's their thing. They're the place you can go for everything. They're the everything store. And so that's their perception and that's their value proposition. So when they add things that adds to that functional benefit, and therefore it enhances their brand in terms of its ability to do that. So I think I'm missing something, but I don't quite understand the question.
Yeah. Sure, sir. So we'll stop taking questions from our participants and like to invite few of my faculty members to recite some of the famous quotes given to the branding world by you, Dr. David Acker.
Namaste, sir. A brand strategy can enable, sometimes crucially, the potential of an innovation to be realized. There are times when you literally need to brand it or lose it.
Branding adds spirit and soul to what would otherwise be a robotic, automated, generic price value proposition. Likewise, Dr. David Archer adds spirit, a soul to the world of branding. He's the pioneer, like how Vasco da Gama found India, Dr. Archer found branding.
Creating signature stories, strategic messaging that energizes, persuades, and inspires.
Brand is not just a one-word phrase, but it's a multi-dimensional thing, and the dimensions will depend on the situation. These are words of wisdom gifted to the world of branding by Dr. David Archer.
Thank you. Now, I would like, now we have a small video dedicated by our students for you, sir. Chavi, can you?
Is sort of my higher purpose in my professional life, and that's to help people build assets and to sort of neutralize the power of short-term financial.
So we hope you enjoyed the video. Now I would like to invite Professor Sunita BK to deliver vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Rasha. Dear Sir, on behalf of Center for Management Studies, Jain deemed to be University, I convey my heartfelt gratitude to you for accepting our invitation and giving us your valuable time and consideration in spite of your busy schedule. Sir, you have no idea how much your acceptance means to all of us. Thank you so much for making the dream of learning from you come true, not just for us, but for other 80,000 people watching us across the globe. It has been absolute privilege and honor to listen to your session, sir. Sir, I would like to thank you once again. Thank you so much. Dear all.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Just a moment, ma'am. We'll just begin with valedictory after.
Thank you so much.
We have here Professor Amritlal Bharadwaj and Mr. Mahesh Ram and our director, Dr. Dinesh Neelkant. Mr. Mahesh.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. And our panelist, Mr. Manish Chaudhary, is also here. Yeah. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Ma'am, we can proceed now.
Thank you, Dr. Rasha. Dear all, as we are still thrilled with the aura of Dr. Archer, with the same pace of excitement, let us move forward. This moving forward is a very important element for all our participants. It would be apt for me now to invite our SRDC coordinators, Pooja Pavardini, Jaturi Kirtana, and Kiran Munawar to take it forward. Kiran?
Yes, ma'am. Shifa, can you share the slide? Just a moment. Yes, you can go ahead. Next slide.
So we'll be thanking the winners of the International and Entrepreneurial Summit, AVLOKAN 2.0. So first we'll be starting off with the winners in the general management track. So Shilpa ma'am, can you click next? Yeah. So the third winner is a comparative analysis of TQM dimensions in improving performance, insights from an investigation of hospitals by Dr. Sayeda Amutul Mahboob, Maulana Azad National Urdu University. Congratulations, ma'am. Our second winner is COVID-19 and Indian Economy, Dr. Jaspreet Kaur, Assistant Professor, PG Department of Commerce and Management, Hansraj Mahila Mahavidyalaya, Jalandhar, India. Congratulations. Yeah. So the best paper in the general management track goes to recent trends in rural women entrepreneurship, empowerment through digitization, Dr. Sunil Kumar R, CMS Business School, Jain University, Dr. Bhavna Joshi, CMS Business School, Jain University, Seshadri Road, Bangalore, Karnataka. A very hearty congratulations to all the winners. I would like to call upon Kirtana to take over.
Move on to the next slide, ma'am. So the winners in finance track are the third place goes to the paper titled Cause and Effect of Herding in Financial Markets, Analysis of the GameStop Short Squeeze Saga, presented by Mr. Ashutosh Das and Dr. Richa Gupta, student of Department of Economics, Jain, deemed to be University. Professor of Department of Economics, Jain, deemed to be University. Congratulations. And the second place goes to the paper titled An Assessment of Operational Efficiency of Regional Rural Banks in India under Second Phase of Mergers and Acquisition, presented by Mr. S. Chaudhary and Dr. Mandeep Kaur, research scholar and professor of University School of Financial Studies, Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar, Punjab, India. Congratulations. And moving on to the first winner of in finance track. The first place goes to the paper titled Global Financial Crisis and Innovation Stimulus, a Critical Study, presented by Mr. R. Ravichandran, Assistant Professor, School of Commerce Studies, Jain University, Bangalore, Karnataka. A heartfelt congratulations to all the winners. Now, I would like to hand over it to Pooja Pravardhini. Thank you.
So these are the winners for human resource track. The third place goes to employee perception and coping mechanism to ward off rising stress levels in remote working by Professor Savita Shastri, Assistant Professor, Department of MBA, Surana College, Bangalore. And the second prize goes to work-life balance and stress management, a case study on health center, Dr. Saida Tabassum, SGMS, that is Miss Priyanka G, Abbas Khan College for Women, Bangalore, Karnataka. And winners for the best paper in human resource track goes to Stress in the Driving Profession, a study on private bus drivers in selected districts of Karnataka. Dr. Naveen Kumar M. S., Dr. Santosh Bai, Dr. KVN Lakshmi, School of Commerce, Jain, deemed to be University, Bangalore, Karnataka, India. A very heartfelt congratulations to all the winners. Now I would request Kiran to take over.
Winners for the marketing track are as follows. Third winner is a study of branding and its impact on consumer buying decisions towards laptop by Ashlyn S. and Miss Nandini, Women's Christian College, Chennai. Congratulations, ma'am. Second prize goes to a study on customer perception on sustainability of green marketing of consumer durability products in Madhya Pradesh by Dr. Shalu Kutwani, Assistant Professor at Sri Vaishnav Institute of Management, Mastanagar, Indore, MP. Congratulations to you, Tima. The best paper in marketing track goes to Marketing of Sin Products, a New Approach. Sachin S. Hali, Lecturer, KLE College of Business Administration, Lingaraj College, Belgavi, Karnataka. Congratulations to you, sir. Now I take the honor of inviting first coordinator of Student Research and Development Cell, Shresh Podar, who has given us the never-ending support in organizing AVLOKAN to announce the next category awards. Over to you, Shresh. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. So the winner for overall best paper award. So the paper titled "The Role of Assessment for the Purpose of Incorporating United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2030 towards regenerative sustainability and social responsible community ventures," written by Dr. Sujata Eves, Ms. Shasa Butler, CEO Center for Global Alliance Camp Leadership Expansion President-elect, National Employment Counseling Association Advisor, International Committee, American Counseling Association Advisor, World Council International and Global Competence, first Chief Global Advisor, Center for Global Excellence and Leadership Expansion Executive Director, Changing Destinations, Journey to Excellence, includes President, Excellence Consulting, Coaching and Training Solutions Member, Harvard Think Tank, on the Global Education Trustee, National Employment Counseling Association. Congratulations to you, ma'am. A very hearty congratulations to the overall best paper winner.
Next slide.
The overall best paper award, the paper title Study on Views of Investor Towards Cryptocurrency in Bangalore, written by Dr. K.R. Jalaja, Chinmay Shekhar V, Diksha S, Associate Professor, Department of Commerce, Bangalore City University, Bangalore. Research Scholar, Department of Commerce, Bangalore City University, Bangalore, Karnataka. A very congratulations to you, sir. Thank you so much. Congratulations to all the winners.
Dr. Shiva, you can take over now.
Thank you, dear students. Congratulations to all the winners and as well as all the presenters for their remarkable efforts and enthusiasm. Now I would like to invite Summit convener, Dr. Varsha Agarwal, to deliver vote of thanks. Over to Dr. Varsha.
Thank you so much, ma'am. As we have come to the end of our 9-day International Entrepreneurship Summit AVLOKAN 2.0, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our Chancellor, Dr. Chenraj Roychand, Pro-Chancellor, Dr. N. Sundarajan, Vice-Chancellor, Dr. Raj Singh, Pro-Vice-Chancellor, Dr. Ishwaran Iyer, Registrar, Dr. N.V.H. Krishnan, Director Academic Planning, Murthy, and entire staff of and principal officers of Jain deemed to be university for developing an ecosystem that has transformed the society and contributed significantly towards its betterment. I thank our esteemed director, Dr. Dinesh Neelkan, Center for Management Studies, Jain deemed to be university, for his overwhelming support and golden words of advices in our endeavors and for inspiring us with his mentorship and guidance. I'm extremely thankful to our esteemed keynote speakers, Mr. Gary Stewart, Dr. Amrit Lal Bharadwaj, Michael Goldberg, Dr. Robert D. Hisrich, Dr. Jay Rao, Dr. L.N.R. Cohen, Dr. Dinesh Neelkan, Darshan Doshi, Gustavo Rojas Ayala, Dr. Bruce Kingma, Dr. Raj Singh, Juan Manuel Gonzalez, Dr. Tave, Dr. Paul D. Reynolds, and Dr. David Acker, father of modern brand, along with our panelists, Mr. Manish Chaudhary, Zohar Hott, Diana Gudi, Thomas Trier Henson, Mahesh Ramachandran, and Dr. Ellen Somers for giving us enriching insights about the concept of entrepreneurship in the current business world. I would also like to convey special thanks to our advisors, Dr. Rogers M. Smith, Christopher H. Brown, a distinguished professor at University of Pennsylvania, USA, Dr. John Lipinski, professor and co-director of the Excel Center for Entrepreneurial Excellence, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, USA, and Mr. Manoranjan Sharma, Chief Economist, Informatics Ratings India, who have been instrumental in making this summit meaningful. For the special contribution, I would also like to mention Mr. Aditya Prasad and Dr. Suchitra R. for Innovation Institute of Jain deemed to be University, along with Ms. Saida Shifa, President Alumni Association CMS, our creative wing, Mr. Umesh Nayak, our guest Neelam Bhardwaj ma'am, Mr. Maheshwaran Paul sir, and our alumni, Mr. Jia and Mr. Abdul, who have been instrumental in making this summit worthwhile. I also express my gratitude to my entire AVLOKAN 2.0 team, Professor Sunita BK, Professor Baisakhi Devnath, Dr. Abhishek Venkateshwar, Professor Mithun Kumar, Professor Sunil Hegde, Professor Vaishnavi, Professor Preetam, Dr. Rama, Professor Seema Sambagi, Infancy Reena, Dr. Rupa KV, Professor Sarita, Jayashri ma'am, Chaitra ma'am, Saida Shifa, Dr. Shiva Chaudhary, and along with all the student coordinators, Pooja Pravardhani, Chirag Begani, Bhavya Kapoor, Pavana, Kiran Munwar, Harita Shri, Gurpreet Saluja, Kirtana Jeturi, Gayatri Naidu, Shivani Mahesh, and entire student research and development cell for bringing this event to the life by putting together their exceptional efforts. Without you all, it was not possible at all. I would also like to thank all our HODs from the bottom of our heart for the ever extending hands of support which have been instrumental in the success of this event. Along with our coordinators, the extremely talented faculty members for their participation and encouragement, the facilities manager and the non-teaching staff of CMS, whose contributions have played a significant role in the success of this event. At the very end, I would also like to thank our wonderful participants whose engagement and active participation have fulfilled the purpose of this event and made this successful. I also thank entire Jain University corporate communication team for making this summit successful. Finally, I would like to take the privilege to thank each and everyone present here for this entrepreneurship summit and wish our esteemed speakers and participants a great time ahead. At the very end, I would like to thank each one of you for showing your interest in our entrepreneurship summit. We hope your experience has been productive and fruitful, and we promise to continue this legacy of knowledge sharing in future as well. Have a good night and take care. Namaste.